That's it. It's going live. Full effect.
It always takes a while to show up on my feed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just showing up right now on my stream, so. Check the audio real quick. Check. Check. Yeah, it looks good. Is it as is the gain as open as possible?
No, it's about what it was last time.
But what it was last time is what you put it down to for the Friedman piece, right?
It was about this setting. That's where I usually keep it unless something major changes.
I see. Cool. Let me just delete some of our last week videos. You know what I realized, man? It's the dudes that are in the stream that don't fall victim to the clickbaits because when we put the video out about the end, they knew what was up. It was the civilians, you know, the more fair weather people who are like, what? I visited my folks this weekend and my mom was like, so you're ending Cartoonist Kayfabe? She's like, I checked my Twitter for the first time in a longest time. You're not doing it anymore? There were dudes already doing the Jeff Darrow Kayfabe-tober prompt.
Yeah. That's real fun.
Isn't that sick as hell? I sent that to him.
Wow.
I like how the bolts in the back of the head kind of push into, it's like imprinted into the back of the skull.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Wonder how long that took somebody to do.
Yeah, me too. I had to track this comic down in town, dude. It sold out. It went into reprints. Like, I was talking with him, and he's like, yeah, it's out today. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to go get that right now. And I called around, and several of the stores were fully sold out. And then Phantom had one copy left with his cover. Like, I wanted his cover. Chris Pachalo did a variant cover for that. And by the time I brought it back home, and was talking to him, he's like, yep, got a call today, man. It's going into reprints. Fun reads this week. This thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, we're going to get some heat for that one, probably.
Yeah.
I'm underwhelmed by Randy Elliott's inks. All the Randy Elliott fans are going to come after me.
We put up the Batman bootleg today, and it got me thinking. Like, I don't exactly remember how it shakes out, but I'm pretty sure that's at the end of Jim Apato's run, or at least very, very, very close.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's pretty cool how, like, they, you know, in wrestling terms, they put him out at the top, and they did the same thing with Kurt Swan. When they wanted to start changing direction and stuff and get John Byrne in there, like, he did that 2-issue Alan Moore joint. There's a video in that, I think, like, showing both of those pieces off. Do you have those issues, those Superman issues?
I think I have one of them. I don't think I have both of them.
I have one also. I have the first one.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Yeah.
I'd have to look that one up. Yeah, that's a really weird book. Aparo too. I feel bad that it's viewed as like bagging on Aparo because I feel like that dude's a legendary guy. But that comic's just not great.
That's not what it is, man. It's bad casting.
It is bad casting, but I also think those guys are probably handcuffed. It's so G-rated.
He just does what he does.
Well, I don't even mean just him. I just mean in general. Like, those Batman comics are... They're pretty soft for what's in there.
Yeah. But, I mean, who's the guy who comes next, man? It is Kelly Jones. And for what it is, he's still able to push some crazy shit. A lot of spinning plates.
Man, that color background is so colorful.
It is. It looks really good on our vids and stuff. And I think it's, it'll look good real good
Yeah,
here.
should be good.
I'm going to change it up, though, when I do the peach piece. What do you think, man? Is it Tombstone, left heavy, look decent?
I think it's good.
Want to lock us in real quick? Good if you are, Jimmy. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
We have some travels going on towards the end of the month. It may or may not be past October 22nd when Jim is going to or has been at the Jacksonville Public Library for a zine festival. Did you stop by? Did you shake hands? Or will you? That is the question. We're getting metaphysical here on Cartoonist Kayfabe, man. Friday, October 28th through the 30th, we are going to be at Baltimore Comic-Con. That is the genesis point. The creation of Cartoonist Kayfabe was hatched at the tables there. Stop by, say hi. We expect that to be a big show. And November 25th through 27th, I'm going to be sharing a table in Tokyo Comic-Con with the great Jeff Darrow. We just sent our bios. We just sent our tour riders, man. No green M&Ms. And we're looking forward to that. Kayfabe still going down. Here is the Kayfabe drawing prompts. We're about halfway done with the month as of this recording. Last time I checked, about 6,000 something hashtags for Kayfabe, and the work that has been coming down the pike has been freaking amazing. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. Red Room Trigger Warnings, Red Room The Antisocial Network are on the stands today. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. Each of these books self-contained, so if you see one of these, scoop them up. Give it a shot, and if you dig it, grab the others. Jimmy has Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive. The Image Comics collection is back in print after about a year of being super rare, so you have no excuse. Got to get your hands on that. Hulk Grand Design, Monster, and Madness are on the stands in issue format, but there's going to be that Treasury Edition coming at the beginning of 2023. Put in your pre-orders right now because we need to show Marvel what's up with the Kayfabe audience and how you guys support these projects. With all of that out of the way, we're done paying the bills. Let's take a look at a comic by my brother from another mother, Takashi Okazaki, or as he prefers to be called by Gaijin, Bob. no kayfabe, man. This is the creator of Afro Samurai. Hanging out with this dude in Tokyo. I'm going to try to get a shoot interview while we're out there. He is my brother from another mother, Jimmy. Behind me in the studio right now, you see that box full of Nintendo, Genesis, all that stuff. Well, he's got the Famicom version and the Mega Drive. And when I went to visit him at his studio, busted out his Famicom, and he's like, "Did you know that there's a Go Nagai Devilman Nintendo game?" I said, "No, I don't know that there was a Go Nagai Devilman Nintendo game. Would you like to see it?" "Yes, I would like to see it." And we sat down, and for 4 hours we beat it while his wife or girlfriend was making fun of us the whole time because we were getting emotional. And this is like kind of a going away present he gave me as we were splitting. It's a bunch of stickers that came out whenever the Tankobon were first being put out by of Lone Wolf and Cub. He is a giant Lone Wolf and Cub mark. Whenever we put the video looking at the artist edition, I was in Tokyo then, and it came out like that day, and he was like, "I must get that." He's also massive Star Wars mark, and on his shelf, like, he's got the drawing board, and to the left there's kind of like a mantelpiece, and it's every astromech droid that has ever made its way into plastic molded toy form. Every R2D2, every R5D4, all those little droids. He just has all of them. So I look at this work as a complete labor of love. It just came out last week as of this recording. He hit me up because we're making plans to, when I hit Tokyo, and he said, "Yeah, my Star Wars Visions comic has come out." I'm like, oh man, that's in my pool box. I gotta go get that immediately. And when I went to the store, they were sold out everywhere else. And when I hit him back up, like, dude, I retrieved it. Great comic. He's like, yeah, it's already going into reprints, man. So this is kind of a big deal.
I think The Lone Wolf and Cub is insightful. I felt a lot of that vibe reading this week.
Sure.
So that makes total sense that would be a book he holds near and dear, because it shows on these pages.
Yeah, he also did the design work for that Samurai Batman, animated series, animated movie, call it an anime if you will. So all of that stuff kind of fits into this. The Afro Samurai part of it, retooling an existing property, the Lone Wolf and Cub elements, man. So without further ado, let's pop in here. Oh yeah, the other cool thing about this is that Aki Yanagi is my homie from out there. I literally introduced those dudes when I was out there.
Wow.
They didn't know each other. Like, Eddie P, when he travels, man, it's like a Katamari Damashi ball. Like, a couple more dudes come, the posse grows. And we were all digging for comics and stuff. So that is a cool thing personally for me. It's like, this is a product of Cartoonist Kayfabe in a certain way. Off the bat, you ain't in Kansas anymore, man. If you're in a galaxy far, far away, it's even further than you think.
There's a little bit of confusing storytelling for me in this very opening scene.
Yes.
And I don't know where he fits in what we're about to see here.
Right.
Is he overlooking this? Like, that part was unclear to me.
He and him are these guys here.
Mm-hmm.
And they are overlooking this. So this is not them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that this is POV of them.
Watching from above.
Yes. And it's that classic, what do they call that, man? Beyond the point of no return kind of section of the bridge where you're halfway, either go one way or the other, but it's not looking good for you either way. And as soon as I got to this page, I'm like, Takashi, you did it, man. You brought Lone Wolf and Cub into the Star Wars universe.
And Road Warrior. I love, like, the fragments of Star Wars masks and pieces that adorn this. Some of these, I don't know, bodies, we'll call them.
Yeah, it's not far from, like, Fist of the North Star in Star Wars universe kind of shit. One of the things I wonder, and when I talk with these people when we're out there, because, we're going to be looking at a Peach comic also, do you draw it in your traditional point of view, like your traditional reading order,
that.
and
like,
you
is this
flip
flipped? Yeah, I was just wondering that.
Yeah.
I like some of the sequence here with our lightsaber. I feel like some of that stuff's really cool and very manga-esque in its motion and kind of the level of zoom.
Yeah. And the monochromatic, like, using this very cold black and white, but using the color, like, very sparingly in strategic instances. Like, the red lightsaber, we know what that means. And these guys, if you don't know what it means, they'll tell you. He's a Sith. He's a bad guy Jedi.
Looking at this comic, I'm surprised that more creators haven't gone this route with very, very limited palettes.
Right.
Like in a Marvel DC book is what I mean by that.
Yeah, this is like
it's pretty distinct looking.
This is like a Tangled Web Spider-Man thing where, like, you're just allowed to kind of do your thing, and I think there's a little bit more grace that's being given. Kind of like the Grand Design brand, like, they let us do our thing. It doesn't affect your canon. This is a great moment. I would love to see this animated or something. And basically the whole crux of the story, to give away spoilers, we're going to see a droid that ain't just a sidekick. Very effective little creature. And it leaves a lot of room for that decompressed manga storytelling. It acts as a one-shot, like any one of those, Japanese singular comics that you read. It's about the same page count. And it's, it's complete. It's a satisfying story. There won't be an issue 2 of this.
Yeah, I didn't count longer the page count. Love these kind of, like, zooms.
Right.
That stuff feels very, I guess, manga-esque, but
Yeah.
it makes for a very good visual, I think, on a page.
Another place you will see Takashi's work, he was part of that Godzilla Criterion Collection piece that guys like Ron Wimberly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do a piece for that?
I didn't do a Godzilla piece.
Maybe Tom did. We have a lot of friends that James Stokey did a piece.
A bunch of people who draw.
Yeah.
Love the panel layouts, though, especially for the battle whenever he goes kind of diagonal shape and almost like splinters. I think that's a nice effect, and he uses it well in these kind of battle moments.
Yeah. There's a big part of me, like, we got Takashi doing some Star Wars stuff. We got Peach, who's exclusive to Marvel. CB Cebulski, he goes over there. Like, is he trying to Karen Berger? Like,
that's interesting. It's you saying that out loud is like the light bulb going off above my head of like, why hasn't Marvel or DC or any number of companies done that? That makes total sense to me that you would go and recruit talent.
Totally.
Especially from what I think of as like the big, the capital of comics art
right.
in the world. And if anybody thinks I'm blowing smoke, every time I'm traveling anywhere, I go to whatever comic shops I can find. Italy, Ireland, all manga. It's not just American shops and Japanese shops. Like, it's huge. It proliferates globally. So if you're going to go poach talent, it seems like open up the Marvel Japan office and recruit.
Yeah. I smell something happening, and I think CB's going to be over there when I'm at Tokyo Comic Con. So I'm gonna have to pull his coat and see if that's the people. He's choosing the people with an affinity towards the American stuff. Takashi, big hip hop fan, likes American culture and is happy to take a pay cut to do a Marvel comic every now and then, because if you have that hit Japanese comic, like you're set for life.
I guess that would be the trouble.
You got to put the money down, man.
Because when you're pulling people out of like 2000 AD in the early 80s, man, they're not getting royalties or creator ownership or anything. It's probably not too hard to bring them out to incentivize them.
Right.
But from the manga side of things, might be a different story.
It hits a lot of the classic kind of Kurosawa type tropes throughout this thing, which is another love of Takashi's. These are almost like those bumbling. Actually, it's almost like George Lucas got inspiration from Kurosawa, and then Star Wars becomes its own thing, and now we're taking it back to the Kurosawa. Like these are the dudes from Hidden Fortress that are kind of like the R2D2 C3PO type fellas.
Yeah, that's a neat circle to contemplate.
Seeing the battle damage on our guy, like this guy, he's been around the block a minute.
Yeah, that guy looks. It's a good design for that character, I think.
Yeah, almost like Vagabond or Blade of the Immortal.
The scars and like, it's almost hardware or something that's inserted into parts of him.
Yeah,
I like that, and I like that it's not addressed.
Right, yeah, totally, yeah. Just like Star Wars, right? Like, you have battle damage, you have this stuff going on, and that's the world you live in, man. You know what, too, man? I would be remiss if I wouldn't have pointed out that our boy Takashi, this reminded me, did a great variant cover for the first round of Red Room, and I gotta thank him a lot for that, man. Like, when I asked him, I couldn't wait to see what he came up with, and that was the shit right there. And just inventing a whole bunch of Star Wars species that got cut down by our main dude.
Yeah, it's a great page.
Nowadays, with the benefit of computer technology, Photoshop and stuff, you could do some really, really sharp lightsaber effects.
For sure. I was wondering, like, on some of these pages, how much of this is on a page and how much is digital, because I have no idea.
I think it's mostly digital at this point. I don't think it works on paper very much.
Some of the grayscaling looks nice. It looks believably textured, and I don't know. It feels cared for. Mm-hmm. And that could be maybe his background was on paper. Yeah. I always think people that have that background are able to then use the digital tools in that way.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Afro Samurai, believe it or not, it was. I was asking him, like, are there any doujinshi that's not yaoi boys love doujinshi? Like, just, did anybody ever sit down and make a cool adventure comic that, like, maybe I could buy or something? And that's how Afro Samurai started. It was just a badass fan-made doujinshi.
Because doujinshi is just amateur press, right? It's not the equivalent of Tijuana Bibles or something.
But it
is. Even though a lot of it's that.
But it is, man.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. I didn't know that Afro Samurai started that way. That's kind of an awesome origin.
Yeah, pretty small run, and then it's one of those classic stories, dude. Somebody in America happened upon this thing that had 1,000 copies made, and the rest is history. This dude has had his career made. When you get to this is the ankle, right?
Yeah, that's a wild page. Feels a little bit out of place, but if you're going to do a god, I want it to look a little bit different. It's a good use of style.
But there was that specific splash page. It's this exact beat. I mean, I'm going to ask him about it in the ankle where it's the god image
I think
this
that's
exact
fair.
composition, which is an interesting extra piece because like Mobius never came up in our conversations. Once again, I hope to get a conversation with him on the record for the Kayfabe channel when I'm out there. There's that back bottom 3/4 view that's just like so impossible to draw accurately, like because you're gonna have these floating. I mean, he does great. He did it correctly. I'm saying when I try to do it,
it's so hard to draw that stuff.
It's hard to anchor all the bits.
A lot of contours there that you're just not used to depicting eyeballs from that low rear view.
Yeah, and it's perspective. You know, it's like, you know, the perspective is here, so you got to get the eyelids accurately. It's literally, dude, this is like Star Wars grand design or something, because it's you could tell he's like, and I want to draw some Ewoks too. You know?
It's ridiculous. Even just like the droids are hanging out in their own hot springs.
The tension grows more and more with our blind guy and our Sith Jedi Ronin, to the point where the Ronin, the red guy, is like, you're supposed to kill me, right? You're the guy that's supposed to fuck me up. It's all building towards that. Steve McNiven. There's a couple Steve McNiven pieces that he's been doing for covers, and he's been like after Stephen Platt, and I get what he's saying because there's a lot of hatching, but it's like so much more thought out and accurate.
I can't believe the way he fetishizes ink, McNiven.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Following him on Instagram, for anybody that doesn't, I'd recommend it if you enjoy like classic sort of inking on comics, because man, he's putting in lines.
And he's going his whimsy. Like there'll be the month where he's going like Frank Miller, Elektra Lives Again line, and then he's chasing Stephen Platt line. Then the next month it's like Barry Windsor Smith.
That feels like Travis Charest to me. Maybe Wildcats Volume 3.
Sure.
2. Whatever that last Travis Charest Wildcats run was.
Here's the big battle, which is another piece that you need in this kind of a comic, right? You got to have the showdown, the part where the guys jump this way, land, and then one of them has to fall.
Yeah, one of them falls in half.
Yeah.
This is another confusing bit for me, though.
Yeah.
So let's follow this and see what you see.
All right, man. Where are you getting confused at? With the actual fights?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Because this looks very dominant, doesn't it?
It does, but that's not even it. Like, I don't understand, like, they're not actually fighting, right? Is that the story?
I don't know, man. That looks like a move. Chopped his sword in half. But he rendered him impotent. This is like that drunken master thing where our dude who's supposed to be impaired is showing you that he could fuck you up. Destroy that guy's sword, and this dude's supposed to be a badass, establish him as a badass. He has this big ass body count, but our boy just renders him impotent, gives him that circumcision, and bounces. And what you discover is that he ain't the badass, man. Like, this part, not quite sure exactly what's going on. He's like lighting a match, maybe about to do something, lets it go out.
But he makes this comment, right? If I had my hands on the sword, I would have died. And it implies to me like they didn't end up having a sword. They didn't end up having a duel.
I see.
For some reason, that, you know, like, I just don't understand it, because
Right.
then we just see a duel.
Yeah.
And wasn't his hand on the sword?
Yeah. Or
in the duel that we saw. So is this imaginary?
Yeah, no, I guess it could even be yeah, good question. But it's all building toward that one moment. Let's go, Master. Where the actual droid is the leader of the team. Bring up some good questions, though, Jimmy. There is certain things, man, where I think the translation was a little bit light.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't... I don't profess to be a Star Wars fan.
Uh-huh.
I have seen many fewer Star Wars movies than have been made.
Sure, yeah.
The red Star Wars dudes are bad guys? Sith?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I guess like I never paid too much attention, but I think Darth Vader has a red.
And purple's good. Is Yoda purple?
Sam Jackson is purple.
Okay. And Luke is blue?
Or green. Sam Jackson, when you go to Takashi's...
You think we'll get any comments on this?
When you go to Takashi's Instagram...
I bet someone will educate me on the colors.
Samuel L. Jackson's always in Takashi's comments. Like, oh, dude, that's badass. So I feel like that purple... Like, was there purple? Did we see purple?
Purple's our blind guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's giving props to Sam Jackson in that one, dude. Shit, maybe this is Mace Windu. A lot of questions. Anyhow, super popular comic. It's going into reprints right away. And cannot wait to get Takashi on the channel. Cannot wait to go digging for comics with the man.
I wonder how much like Lucasfilms is involved in these things. They must approve everything, right?
Well, it's all Disney now, you know. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, geez. Right.
So, does it matter? I don't know. I did hear, after those newer movies came out, George Lucas has some not nice things to say that he had to recant. So I think he has less involvement than he used to for certain, man. Anyhow, there it goes, man. Star Wars Visions 1. People have been asking us to do newer stuff. And heading out to Tokyo in short order. Gonna meet the man. Gonna hang out with the man. And decided to take a look at the man's comics. Jimmy, you good to go?
Almost. I would add, like, because I hear so much about negative new comics, like, to me, there's just new comics for everybody.
Sure.
It's not that every new comic is for everybody.
Right.
But there are new comics for everybody, and that's a really interesting new comic to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty exciting in terms of what I see on new racks. I feel like that's really scouring the earth to bring in talent, good talent, and let them do something they're obviously passionate about.
Let's go CB, man. There's going to be a new invasion.
It's a one issue. You know, like that's a rewarding one issue. If you're going to do a single issue, make it worthwhile. Give the people their money's worth, and I feel like you get that with this issue. Yeah,
man. The Star Wars Vision stuff, like, is issue number 2, is that, are they continuing this trend? Because I feel like it says even on the inside it's a one-shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, published as a one-shot.
Yeah, it's a good idea that Visions thing and have creators do it, but I do think you stumble if you start having, like, it's Star Wars Vision 7. Yeah, like it starts to get cumbersome then for the person who's like, oh, I like this artist or I like Star Wars, trying to track that down. So hopefully it's something they have a good strategy for, because I'm sure there are a lot of talented creators that would line up to get to do their version of a Star Wars comic.
It's a good point, man. What number is the Paul Pope Spider-Man Tangled Web? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy, let's get out of here. Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's up.
Street Angel Deadly Squirrel Live, back in print from Image Comics. Available in any comic shop anywhere now, so order that or pick that up next time you're there. 8 complete stories, Hulk Grand Design, Monster Madness. 2 oversized issues are in shops now if supplies are holding out, and you can pre-order the Hulk Grand Design oversized Treasury Edition now. It'll be out early 2023, but gotta let them know how many to print. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see lots more of my art and comics.
Red Room Trigger Warnings and Red Room The Antisocial Network are in stores as we speak. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game in Red Room Comics. Each book completely self-contained, and each book contains about 70 pages of extra content that is not in the single issues. So if you see one of these, you could start anywhere, and if you dig it, grab the other. I'm serializing new Red Room stuff on my Patreon. Also, every Tuesday, put out new strips, more than 300 pages worth of stuff up there as we speak. $3 all it costs. Get to my link tree in the description below this video to get to all those destinations. Jimmy, what else do we have out there, man?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, fanny packs, and a lot more at our spread shop in the links below this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel.
Especially with Christmas around the corner.
That's it, man. Give them those marching orders, Jim. We'll be on our way.
Read more comics. That should have been a read more manga.
Yeah, man.
Blew it. This is the advantage of watching these live recordings. You can see whenever we go off script. you ever read Nataro?
No.
Shigeru Mizuki?
Kintaro.
Kitaro.
Yeah, Kitaro. Yeah, some.
I feel like some of the stuff in there reminds me of this.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the mythology aspect of, like, demons and things.
Totally. Like it would probably, if you had, like, a real knowledge of the culture, like, a lot of that stuff probably means stuff. Like whenever, like, the whole part where it's like, or no, whenever you see, like, we are gods and they show those faces. Like, I never understood those things as gods. Like, those statues. And I always thought that was, like, demons. But it's like, oh, is that gods? Okay. Cool. Peach and Yo are super funny, man. Yo is a heck of a businessman. Because, like, I was like, yeah, dude, we want to look at a Peach comic. So, like, we got the Demon Days trade. Like, we want to do a single one. So what does she prefer? And so we're gonna do the one that we're about to. And he was like, yeah, tell us what time and we'll be up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you want us on the stream, right? And I'm like, well, this one's gonna be for us, but how about next Tuesday we'll do a little shoot interview? So I think that'll be on. I think that's going down.
Giving out some big previews.
Yeah.
Got some good guests booked coming up. Mm-hmm. Some surprises.
Yeah, and it may happen, may not happen, but the thought is to do a little bit of that before I head out there. But we have plans out there also to do some things, digging, like, and the cool thing was that it was Yo, like, cause like it was I was going to headhunt and try to make it happen, but he's like, would you like want to have us on your channel? And I'm like, as much as you want, let's go dig in, let's do all of it. So she's working her butt off right now, man, to carve some time. And the Kayfabe channel should benefit from that in a big way.
I think she'll be a really interesting person to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, her experience in American comics, very unique.
I was thinking,
and her perspective's got to be equally.
I was thinking, like, we're gonna make them millionaires after the conversation, because I'm gonna be like, yo, this is what you do. Like, I know you guys are exclusive, but your next move, when your contract is done, go off, start designing, like, your own singular thing. Go to take the image. You're going to become a millionaire. And if not, like, Marvel has to put down, if they want to keep that exclusivity up, like, they're going to have to pay you in a big way. If they want to keep their hooks into you.
Do you know if she sells originals? Because that would be the other piece that would just be, considering her following.
Yeah.
Man, that stuff has to be in demand.
Sure. Let's see. Good if you are, James. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
And we are going to be on the road a little bit. Jacksonville Public Library for a zine festival, October 22nd. Jimmy's going to be there, man of the hour for that experience. You may or may not have gone there, depending on when this video went live. Baltimore Comic-Con, October 28th through 30th, is the big one that Jimmy and I are preparing for. It's the birthplace of Cartoonist Kayfabe, the joint where I was working on Jimmy all weekend. Let's look through Wizard magazines on YouTube and see what happens, Jimmy. And voila, this is what happened. Tokyo Comic-Con, November 25th through 27th is going to be fly. I'm going to be out there, man, sharing a table with Jeff Darrow. Cannot wait to dig in the bins to see what the heck has made it onto Japanese shores. The Kayfabe-tober prompts for 2022 are pinned to our social media, our Instagrams, and our Twitter accounts. Here's where we're at right now. More than 6,000 pieces have been tagged for Kayfabe-tober already, and you guys absolutely do not freaking disappoint. So fun to see every day.
Some good prompts coming up too, man.
The videos are brought to you by the books that we make, and Jimmy has Hulk Grand Design Monster Madness out in the wild right now. It's going to get that Treasury Edition format in early 2023. Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, trade paperback is back in print, man. So you got to make sure you get your hands on that. No excuse not to have it. And for my efforts of late, Red Room, The Antisocial Network, and Red Room Trigger Warnings are the latest comics that I have out in the wild. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit. And each of these books is self-contained. So try anyone out. If you dig it, grab another. Now that we're done paying those bills, man, the cottage industry herself, Peach Momoko, made her way into to New York Comic Con to great fanfare. You could read about that stuff online and how embarrassing the resellers and such are when they're out there headhunting. But she has provided us. Where is that, Jimmy?
I don't know that I have. Are you looking for a Hulk Grand Design cover?
Yeah.
I don't think there's one here.
There is. Yeah, I think you left a bunch. Unless you picked it up. Unless you were like, you know what, man, I'm selling shit.
I don't remember leaving it here, and I haven't seen it in a while. So.
Huh. I think there was a printout.
Oh, that might have been.
But I got to thank Jim Mahfood for the hookup with Peach and Yo. Back when I was in Japan and stuff, got to know them because they were very impressed that I knew Pun P, the rapper dude that brought me out there, that I did the DVD cover for. She did a variant for issue 1 of both Red Rooms, as well as Jim Rugg.
Hulk Grand Design.
Hulk Grand Design. They made this Red Room comic freaking explode. And I'm super, super thankful. So I'm heading to Japan in November, and gonna kick it with the homies. So there was always the plan to go out there, kick it with Peach and Yo, maybe do a shoot interview. We might do something ahead of time for the Kayfabe channel. That remains to be seen before I split out there. But she said that the Demon Days Rising Storm issue is the one. She digs them all, but the specific. The energy that she was able to capture on the page and the comfort zone that she got into after doing, a couple, 100 pages or so of comics. When she gets to this stage, she's in the zone. She's in the zone. And I think that it's very apparent. Like, you could read this all as one big kind of continuing story. But the cool thing about this issue is with the upfront exposition and thinking about it through the lens of like reading manga, you get a lot of this in like, Tankobon 1
right.
of manga where, like, let's establish the universe. And once again, is C.P. Cebulski, fluent in the language? Is he poaching talent to try to Karen Bergerize the Marvel Comics? Why not, man, bring in some fresh talent from off our shores and see what can be done? That ain't from our shoot interview guy, is it, Jimmy? Okay, cool. So you get a couple pages of these impeccable montages. She works on the page. This original art exists.
Very beautiful. Love the line works, almost painted line work.
Absolutely.
That's really attractive and not something you see very often.
That calligraphic hand, like steeped in traditional art as well as manga. Like, she's very fluent with that brush, and I think she is fast. I think she can work with speed, man.
It makes sense. She certainly puts out a lot of material, and that's a nice intro for kind of the mythology of what we're going to see with these, I guess, demon characters and their history.
Isn't that a badass accessory to have on your costume? I'm working on a story right now where I'm using full color, and it takes place in a forest setting. So I've been really, like, as I've been looking through this, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna snap a pic of that and some other great like forest scenes, because it's traditional watercolor with the colors, so you could see like what's being done. You get like a super light wash, and you build up, so put down that's like yellow green in the background, cut in some bark of some trees far off in the distance, and then just like pool shapes closer and closer and closer as the paint becomes slightly more and more opaque.
Yeah, there's a lot to like in this art. I am critical of color often.
Yeah.
And this is why, because this is beautiful color.
Yeah.
This is what you can do with color. And, the materials certainly help, but she knows what she's doing with color.
Yeah, it's so clear. Here's your Logan in this universe, dude. Ogami.
Yeah, very bizarre, like a reimagining of Marvel characters through this storyline.
And as you would, if you're gonna bring people who are not acquainted with the material the way that we are here in the States, you have to let them, because you can't pay somebody enough to get up to speed with Wolverine. Read characters Wikipedia, and your head will explode. You'll have an aneurysm. My favorite one to read, by the way, is Apocalypse. If you guys are curious, go read his Wikipedia origin, and it really sounds like Fletcher Hanks meets Henry Darger.
That's very well said. All those Marvel Universe profiles were like that too, where it was just so confusing.
Yeah. So this is Mariko and Logan, Wolverine.
Right.
On the hunt for her sister. And when you see this image, does that not make so much fucking sense?
Yeah, it's brilliant, and it's you know, I said it a lot in interviews with Grand Design, like, how do you kind of make these characters new and fresh that have been around for 50, 60 years? To me, this is how you do it.
It's kind of the coolest Storm ever, and it plays with tradition, like Claremont. Remember during that Jim Lee era, go through this, she's like the little kid character for a while, and congrats to Peach for actually making Thor cool.
It's a good pairing too, I think, with Storm and with Thor as being like two gods.
Yeah, the gods of thunder and the goddess of everything else that has to do with
Makes
weather.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
almost too obvious. Because I don't know how much they interact in traditional Marvel comics, but it seems like, why wouldn't they have been stuck together a lot?
The other piece to the peach color that I've been noticing too is like going with some like kind of opaque white media and cut in some shapes and things in there also. So that's like another piece that I put into my mind when it comes to doing the color for my stuff. And what it, like, this is just like a wisp of wind.
Manifestation of Storm showing up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same color scheme as her, that little bit of gray and white around it. So
right.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I didn't think about that much, but I like how she draws this hair. That's another one of those pieces where it's like you've got line work, but you also have like black watercolor.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, or is it just flat out ink?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That or maybe it is carb. It's not archival. It's not. It fails the spit test. You get that shit wet. We got our showdown between Mariko, Logan, Thor, and Baby Storm. They're gonna merchandise the hell out of this, man. This is gonna be a toy.
It's a really good design.
That's gonna be a plushie.
But all of it's good, and her storytelling, like the actual comics, I think work really well, which you don't always get with a cover artist.
This is she's doing covers to make those ends, but she's a cartoonist through and through. Like, make no mistakes. And we said it on a previous episode that we recorded. Might as well say it again. I wonder if she's drawing this in the traditional way that she reads, and then it gets flipped, or do you do the initial sketches the way that you read, flip it, and then do the final version? That's going to be a question to ask.
It's a great question because I'm curious about it. You know, when I say cover artist too, like painting's another one that always doesn't translate.
That's true.
So to be able to get kind of a cartooniness in the paint, I that always impresses me.
She builds her stories in that kind of McFarlane-ish visual way, like comes up with visual scenes and then weaves the story kind of around the moments that she creates. So all that other stuff is just buttressed with these initial ideas of like Thor, Storm, weather gods versus our more human characters. How does that work out? Great powers, like just using color with watercolor. That's like one thing that you got to figure out. But now you got to have special effects. You know, a while back, man, we looked at that Zelda Viz collection from the Nintendo Power comics, and the watercolor and the color media in that with all the special effects. I mean, it's just these are sights to behold.
They're doing some very subtle things with their word balloons.
Yeah.
Where like it's not an even line, and I can't figure that out because it looks like it's digitally drawn.
Yeah. The
word balloon shapes. But they're doing something to make that line fluctuate a little bit. You know, you can kind of see these imperfections in it, which I really like.
I think it's an effort to try to approximate the peach line. You know, like one of the things that we say often on the channel is it's not harshing on digital lettering. It's about the congruency of the font choice with the line art. And there's almost nothing you could do. Like, in the history of manga in America, it's like that one specific font that we've always seen in like the Viz comics and stuff. It's pretty traditional, but this is like what the letterer can do to kind of approximate her line. Smart choice.
Yeah, I think so. Thoughtful, at least.
Yeah.
Man, this looks cool.
It's so
introducing
dope.
the red in that jaw.
The blood sword, man. And just getting completely impressionistic. Get some wild shit. And look at Sword is like not even tripping. It's so easy for her, and it looks like Thor's having like slightly harder time with it.
Good sense of power as they collide.
Excellent weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the balance of the figure is fantastic. You know, it feels right. This is so hard, dude. Tosses the blood sword, which we knew in Ronin issue 1. You don't do that, right? Like, you know, the Jonin ain't supposed to throw the weapon, and just the storytelling of it is so great. Just whoosh. Storm gets it out of her jib with ease. It ain't no thing.
Yeah, once something goes airborne, I feel like it's advantage Storm.
There's a little dagger. Thor takes care of that shit to the point where he straight up concusses our girl. It's the hammer that nobody else but Thor can hold, and she catches it to the headpiece.
Doesn't put her down. May make her angry, but
it's good salesmanship on the character, right? That's a tough cookie.
It is tough, and I like that there's a bruise or something instantly on her head.
Yeah,
she's wearing that thing like a mark.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Peach doesn't like lean so deep in traditional manga idiom with like big mouths, bulging eyeballs. She's reasonably rooted.
This is interesting because that to me is her lettering.
Yeah, for sure.
So why is that her lettering, but like some of the other sound effects aren't?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
And also, what does this say? Is that some sort of like Thor, hammer, you know, Greek, Norse god language?
Remember that, like, sometimes it would be a description of something. Like, this is the sound of
hammer hitting skull.
Yeah, of rock hitting bone.
That's right. That's great. That's how I'm interpreting that.
No nose, dude. Mm-hmm. Just kind of like, just a hint of it in color. And it's unclear if that was even chosen. Like, it's so subtle. It could have just been how the paint laid.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if you'd call that chibi, the storm treatment.
Right.
It looks like it in that panel. It doesn't always look like it, but in that panel, I feel like it does.
We are gods, dude.
Yeah.
So this is their traditional, like, you know, they're just donning avatars in the human world. But when they're doing their thing, that's what they look like.
What a two-page spread.
That is the most godlike Storm has ever looked, mm-hmm. also. Yeah, amazing two-page spread. I'm curious about the paper that she uses, because for all the work that is done in comics out there, I have some of that deleter paper. Like, I've visited mangaka at their exact studios, and I know exactly which deleter paper they use. And you watch Manben, and you see those guys drawing on stuff. It's a step above bond paper.
I'd be surprised if this isn't a watercolor paper because of the texture where the colors are.
Yeah.
And also, like you say, like that paper, I think you'd have a hard time putting watercolor on it.
But then the other question will be like, fuck, man, when you do a traditional watercolor, you gotta tape it down, and like, there's a hassle involved in that. And to do that for every page of this seems like you need a lot of space. Because I don't think when you're pulling the colors, like, do you work on one page at a time, or you do like these greens over 10 pages? These are questions. Mm-hmm. These are questions to ask.
Yeah, notes from this episode for future talk.
Yeah.
Get it from the source. So impressive how red is used in this story.
Yeah, it's very strategic. Absolutely.
It's very dramatic.
How about that right there? Like, what the fuck is that, man? I think the letterer lost one of their bubbles.
I think you're right.
And couldn't find it, and it made its way into the final printed page, because that don't make no damn sense.
Yeah, that's a good call. I don't remember seeing that either when I read this.
Flashback sequence. Young Mariko got a goofy ass sister who's down with a lot of evil shit, killing for fun.
Yeah, blamed for killing her mother, right?
Yep. And that's the quest that Mariko's on. You know, wants to confront the sis, and these guys they bring her to the temple, man, where her sister is.
Look at some of this drawing in the paint.
Thor's so cool, eyes. Right?
Yeah, and even here, I feel like there's so much done in the color. All the roundness of that form is in color, and it's pretty simple. Imagine a big, thick brush applying those areas of color on that face.
She got those round brushes and those super sharp watercolor brushes for all these different textures. There's so much to learn just staring at this work.
I think more and more when I look at this stuff, or some of the artists that we talk to, about their styles and how important that is. And I kind of go back and forth. People that follow my work know I've worked in different styles. But man, if you're selling yourself, this kind of unique style seems vital.
Yeah. Yeah, and they, man, I forget what Yo called it, because like when you speak to them, you're speaking to Yo. He's translating, and he called it something like, you know, they turned in a bunch of roughs for the Red Room cover, and my thing is like, you just do what you want. Like, you always get the better work if the artist does what the hell they want to do. Like, that's full stop how shit usually goes down. So she started working on something, and then started doing something else because it was like, it's not Momoko flavor, or like they called it something like that. So very conscious of their style, of what they present to the world. This is where we get to the Jim Rugg portion of our Demon Days
right.
comic, because we have our little chibi guy with that Audi.
Yes.
You know, he's got the Audi, and how about that for Metamorphosis?
We're about to unleash something.
Hellbow.
Spoiler.
How cool is that, dude?
Yeah, I was pretty excited to see that whenever I read this week.
And because, you know, different cultures, he ain't wearing purple pants. You know, he ain't going to the discotheque. It's that little loincloth, man, that little E Honda joint. When this comes out, you gotta check out the next issue, right? There's your teaser, man. We might have to do a little more Peach Momoko on the channel.
It's a crazy interpretation of the Hulk.
Genius.
Really like the body style. Very monstrous.
Yeah, they established that God thing, and he's got that face. You know, like, we've seen that kind of face. It's pretty fucking sick, man. So Peach Momoko, the cottage industry, Marvel Comics and elsewhere, cover artist of the day. Heck of a cartoonist as well. And the hope is to get a little time with the crew while we're out there. Go digging for manga, see what the inspirations are, what got them into drawing. And maybe get a little bit more FaceTime and stuff on the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, man.
You know what else I like about this comic, flipping through it? It isn't a bunch of talking heads.
No, that's what I'm saying. She is, and also we looked at the Takashi Okazaki Star Wars Visions. These are visual comics. Like, these are comics that are put together by cartoonists who want to draw cool stuff, cool scenes, and it ain't about, you know, two heads talking. You know, there's always stuff going on, and it begins with the set piece, which, for a superhero comic, for my money, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach to comics. You know, and I don't know exactly what her process is, but what you just described describes this comic really well. And I feel like that's an interesting approach to a visual medium, and it's not what's taught, and I don't hear it talked about very often. I don't think a lot of people work that way.
It's usually shunned upon at this point, man, where, like, it's, you know, come up with this very rigid kind of structure.
Once again, it's the advantage of one creator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It reads well, no confusion, and is always exciting. You know, like, there was that Neil Gaiman, like, what was it, 1492 or something, and, you know, you get the blind Native American Captain America or whatever, and that's one thing, man, but it falls into that rigid Marvel kind of structure. This is how you play.
It's pretty radical. I wonder about other creators having this amount of freedom. Like, you got to kind of earn a spot. You got to be able to sell some stuff with your name if you're going to take these kinds of liberties, probably. It is interesting to compare this to. That's not the right year, though. I can't remember what, 1600 and something?
Yeah, who the hell knows?
It's frustrating that stuff just comes and goes. Like, you'd think you're investing in a Neil Gaiman story. This will be in print forever. And it's like, good luck finding that thing now.
Oh, totally. And he's done interviews since saying that, I've done comics for the money and it really never went that well. Good to go?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's out there, man.
Street Angel, Deadly Squirrel Alive is back in print from Image Comics after almost a year out of print, so add that one to your Christmas list if you don't already have it. Hulk Grand Design Monster Madness is in stores as comic books right now while supplies last, but the oversized Treasury Edition will be out in early 2023. The size of the Demon Days book, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man, that's a treasury. That's a hip-hop family tree size.
So imagine this eyeball even bigger. Pre-order that one now. Let your shop know you need it so that they can let Marvel know, keep these grand designs rolling, and print enough for everybody. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg where you can see lots more of my comics and art.
Red Room trigger warnings. Red Room, the antisocial network, are in stores as we speak. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. In the Red Room universe, every single one of these books is completely self-contained. So if you see one, give it a shot. You will, if you dig it, grab the other. And you can check out the Patreon where I serialize new strips every Tuesday. $3 get you the archive there. More than 300 pages worth of stuff up there as we speak. My link tree in the description below will get you to all those destinations. Jimmy, what else do we have out there, man?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, fanny packs, and more at our spread shop at the links below this video.
Great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders, Jim. We'll be on our way.
Read more manga.
Boom. How we doing on time? Oh,
3
great.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Should be good. 2 videos an hour, and we'll have time to spare. You gonna do Love and Rockets and flip?
You want me to flip it?
Yeah.
I can flip it. The color background makes sense for that
Yes.
also. Alright, man. You think your phone is on airplane mode and stuff?
It is on airplane mode.
Okay, good to go.
Yeah, after the phone call in that last video, I switched it to airplane mode.
Good to go if you are. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
A little bit of traveling. Still to go. In October the 22nd, Jimmy's going to be, or has been, at the Jacksonville Public Library. The following weekend, we are going to be at Baltimore Comic Con. That's the weekend of October 28th through the 30th. Still got some days left in Kayfabe-tober. Here are the prompts. Love what you guys have been putting out there. More than 6,000 pieces of art already, and only half the month as of this recording has gone by. Can't wait to see what else you guys are going to put out there. Keep that full head of steam. The entire 31 days, your art chops are going to grow in big, bad ways. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. Red Room, The Antisocial Network, Red Room Trigger Warnings are my latest efforts. Each of these books completely self-contained. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. So if you see any of those, scoop it up, give it a shot. If you dig it, grab the others. Jimmy has Hulk Grand Design Monster and Madness out in issue format right now while supplies last. But have no fear, in early 2023, these comics are going to grow into bigger, greener versions of that comic. When you get Hulk Grand Design, the book collection from early 2023. Put in your pre-orders right now. You can go on your local comics website, comic shop's website. Go to your comic shop, Amazon, whatever's convenient. Jimmy also has Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive trade paperback. Is back in print, collecting all of the Image Comics, Street Angel comics that have been published. And without further ado, Jim, one of the greatest comic series, one of my favorite comic series in America, Love and Rockets. We covered 3 issues. There's 50 issues of that first run. We're going to have to cover all of them.
Yes.
There are 20 issues in the second run that are comic book format. We're going to have to cover all of those.
I love it.
I think there's 8 to 10 of that square bound soft cover with the spines.
Those are going to be harder to show off, but we'll have to find a way.
That's true. I think we got to cover them. And we are up to issue 12 of the new volume of Love and Rockets.
Institution. And as the previous videos show, they hit the ground running.
Yes.
Issue 1, no comics like it before that. But man, by this point, I feel like they are kind of coming into their own.
Absolutely. Completely confident with their character. They know their characters really, really well. There's a consistency there. They're at the stage where they're really giving themselves exercises, like through their strips. You could see them playing with different things. These are special comics, and they are celebrating their 40th anniversary. Like the birth date of Love and Rockets is Eddie P's birth date, man.
Wow.
So however old I am, like that's when you know there's like nickel or dime anniversary, and there's a big box set for the complete series of the first run, the first 50. We'll get our hands on that and show that thing off at a certain point. But there was just a recent documentary made, and I think those documentarians know the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel a touch, because they got people with the microscope view, and they sat Jaime down with like Owen Fitzgerald, Dennis the Menace comics, and they sat Gilbert down with Bob Montana, the Bob Bowling frickin' Little Archie comics, and doing all the shit that the Kayfabe boys do. So that was frickin' awesome. This issue in particular, with the 100 Room story, is the issue of Love and Rockets that I might have read the most as a kid. I got the first 4 very, very young, on the strength of Comic Book Confidential, the documentary from the 80s. And this one has the sequence that Jaime reads in the documentary, is, in the forthcoming couple of pages here. And the comic is just completely magical. But should we start our conversation with the letters page a little bit?
It.
We have Steve Lee Aloha, who's representing San Francisco at this time, sending in a letter extolling the virtues of Love and Rockets. So happy to see a comic that has, a different point of view than your average kind of superhero comics, dealing with, Spanish-speaking communities, like places that he knows and has experiences with, and is just, giving so much props to the bros, is saying that, I have to go to France to get comics this good, and is just so stoked. And also Bob Stewart is a name that you'll know if you're deep into comics from the fanzine era. I think he might show up in those Russ Cochran EC reprints, doing some writing and things, and he was writing for the Journal at this time.
Right.
Should we jump right in, Jimmy?
Yes.
All right, man. Locas Tambien. This is the 100 Rooms story. The way that these first 4 issues would work is it would ping pong back and forth between who's going to do the bigger story. Issue 1 is Gilbert with Bem. Issue 2 is the epistolary graphic novella that Jaime does with the dinosaurs and all that. Issue 3, Gilbert is introducing us to Palomar with a part 1 of a big epic story. So this is 100 Rooms. Masterpieces in each. Fucking unbelievable, man. You know, I was thinking about that, man, and I was trying to explain how this could be even possible, because I look at these comics and I'm like, I don't know how you make it. But then you and I, well, I'll speak for myself. I never had anybody to speak with about comics until I met you when I was 21 years old. Imagine like growing up in a household with enthusiastic comic drawers, because there's precedent for that. The Crumb Brothers.
Sure.
You know what I mean? There's precedent for the battery in the back, iron sharpens iron from a young age. Mm-hmm. And over the past, 15 years or whatever, get to have meals with Gilbert and Jaime and get to know them a little bit. And I remember Jaime saying something like, like frustrated that when people come up to them and is asking about like sibling competition, rivalry, fighting, and surprised that he has none of, they didn't do that. And he's like, why does everybody want us to fight? Like we never fought as kids. So it's all, it's all inspiration. It's all broing down and putting pencil to paper.
I do think it's part of it is because they stylistically so unique.
Yeah.
And especially the way they tell stories and the stories that they choose to tell, very different. And that is unusual. You think of the studios that would have been popping up in the 90s and stuff where everybody's kind of doing the same version of whatever style that studio's putting out and known for. And to have two brothers that grow up trading comics with each other and publishing comics in the same book, I don't know, man. It's pretty amazing that they kind of veer off and do their own thing.
Yeah. Seeing the wrestling stuff with Jaime, we've done. There was the book of wrestling drawings he did. We did Whoa Nelly, which is a 3-issue piece that he did when he did break off after the first 50 issues of Love and Rockets. But seeing this moment right here where we got our grizzled vet stretching some new talent in the ring, made me think about, I don't know if we got it on the record with the Jaime Shoot interview, but we were talking wrestling, and he was talking about his experiences with the Labella organization out there in the West Coast, and he said something like, we were fans, we all knew, but when people from the outside would ask, is that real, is that fake, we would just throw our hands up, and he did the key in the mouth, like putting the lock on, key in the mouth, lock, throw the hands up, I don't know, yeah, it's real, that kind of thing. Smart mark shit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's you can see how wrestling would make sense.
Yeah.
Like it's such a storytelling heavy medium. Like if you're into making up stories, it'd be pretty easy to get hooked on that. It's theatrical. I was thinking about it recently and the idea that wrestling could be viewed through the lens of theater.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's totally a live production. Yeah. So you have either television or theater, which I would take your pick, depending on your experience with it. But it makes sense to me why somebody these guys were hungry consuming stories and trying to make their own stories and understand how to make their stories. I don't know how you'd resist that pool of wrestling.
It looks like at this level, Jaime's still drawing at the dimensions
2x3.
Yeah, of your standard comic book. So that's a traditional Steve Ditko kind of 9-panel grid. On the Love and Rockets documentary that came out like through PBS or whatever that was, man, public broadcasting, and they sit him down and he's taking a look at that Owen Fitzgerald Dennis the Menace comics. He's pointing out how in each panel there's like there's an A story that's happening in dialogue, there's a B story that's happening visually, and he really like leaned on that. Mm-hmm. You could have this dialogue thing happen, but there's acting in every panel, and you see it. You see it in every single one of these panels. There are no talking heads, even when there is. Like look at that look on Hopi's face, man.
It's great. And so much animation for what is not an action comic.
Yes.
You know, you wouldn't quite know it by how well he does body language and movement and stuff.
Starting here is you get to see Jaime read and do his own acting part, like in Comic Book Confidential, starting right there.
Yeah. I love that she gets thrown out, and a couple panels later, Hopi's like, you could become a wrestler and give the opponents the flying sit down, which we clearly see is what happened when she asked her aunt for money. And what does she need money for?
Some black steel-toed bomber boots. Like I straight up know this verbatim just from watching that documentary 1,000 times. It ends about here. His reading of it, and boy, I would love the audiobook version where he just reads all of it. Enter stage left, Penny Century coming through, and there's acting involved here, man. Like she's coming through, was playing some ball, seeing her girls, and she needs to address the chick, you know, interact with her, puts the glove on the bat. It's just that human stuff that Jaime injects that just adds life.
And it moves at a really good clip. You know, again, we talk about talking head comics, and look, lots of dialogue, but man, they're just breezing through this.
The characters that aren't a part of like the Hoppers crew, Jaime cartoons the fuck out of them. Like there's some sense that he just doesn't care about anybody but his A-listers.
You know what? That's true, but it reveals to me more of the influence of things like the Dennis the Menace, the Little Archies. You know, like that kind of pure cartooning, I think, is a great backdrop where, because these characters in the foreground, they are cartooned.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that they're maybe a little more developed or a little more, I don't know, referencing real people or something. But you see their body language is so exaggerated, you know. And to me, that's that cartoon part.
Yeah.
And that's the part that makes these panels a 9-panel grid that could be very static, but instead it's lively as these characters are leaning back and throwing their arms up and moving, really kind of swinging, you know, like stepping into their motion.
These dudes each have about 150 pages under like a little over 100 pages under their belt. So with issue 4, this is where they're able to give themselves some parameters with their stories. And this story is told through 9-panel grid with a splash panel introducing every new part, and every part is about 4 or 5 pages, whatever, 6 pages. So he's sticking to that rhythm throughout the story, and it does create this breezy reading experience. And so much happens in this comic. You cannot easily describe 100 rooms. It starts off, she needs $50 for some boots, and ends up being at this mansion that you never visit the same room twice. And the things that happen in there, like the whimsy of it, it almost feels like it's like jazz or something, where it's improvised.
Yeah. You know what? Don't turn the page yet.
Yeah.
Check this out. We see as he's going through and trying to figure out, you know, keep things lively, keep everybody moving. You see something like this a couple of times where small characters are silhouettes. When we go to this next chapter, now suddenly the backgrounds are silhouette, even though these characters are the same size as that previous use of silhouette. It really is inventive. It's like never being lazy about any of these choices.
Yeah, but this is also one of those parts, you know, that I talk about when it's like I got to draw my characters in the pharmacy, and I drive repill bottle, and I'm like, I just know Jaime would know a fucking better way,
yes,
a more economic way to sell it without having to put a million lines, man. This is exactly what I'm talking about, because this easily communicates giant mansion. You see just enough there that makes it feel domestic rather than just like a hotel or something. The big giant window, you black it all. You don't need to see all of that, and it feels like it. And that's what frustrates me so much. And it's hard to articulate to him specifically, like just when talking to him, because I don't want it to sound like I'm saying hackery or like you found the easy way out or something, because that is absolutely not. It's elegance.
It definitely is. And just the slight skewing, you know, like even that part, touch. Because this is going to be a little bit of a screwy story. So in case you weren't sure of that, your chapter page there kind of answers the question. Playing
billiards with like mallets.
Yeah. One is a golf club, one's a mallet, and one's a cue stick. Like, what are we doing?
In a Mondrian kind of room. I just imagine poppy colors, all primaries.
Yeah, it's wild.
Adorning that room. The bed is like instead of a California king, that's like a Tolkien Lord of the Rings king.
Yeah,
bed.
Andre the Giant could sleep comfortably in that bed. Really great use of blacks, which, you know, he's known for spotting really well. But as we see, like, moving through this cavernous house, there's such a sense in what he's not showing, to go back to what you're saying about Alex Toth, or figuring out how to do that complex scene in an elegant way. There are a lot of examples of that in these panels.
Stretching that shadow, that distance, that is not a small room.
No.
That is a gigantic room, and he's selling you on that with an icon, essentially.
Yeah.
So three examples of him showing us the expanse without having to show us much of anything. Three completely different ways to do it on its 2-page spread right here. I marvel at these guys.
Everybody, take notes. If you're trying to make comics, this is the book to follow. Speaking of, like, storytelling, this page is a tour de force of Maggie opens a door into trouble. There's a stranger in that closet.
And by the way, that ain't an easy door to open. You could tell just from the body language, and you don't see the top of it.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
She's cracking through a gutter of a panel, and it looks heavy.
Very large, and we go from a face coming out of that shadow to now on top of her.
Yeah.
It's tense. It's a good sequence.
Fantastic lettering to sell it, because you get 3 bolder and bolder pieces of verbiage right there. Just the 4th exclamation, the biggest of them all.
Yeah, after he lets his hand off of her mouth to say, "Now, don't scream." The biggest lettering in the book.
Cut to Hopi and Izzy Rubens kind of doing their thing, and at this point, when you turn the page, it could be days. Like, you don't know if they're exaggerating the time. Like, it would be in their character to be hyperbolic and be like, "Oh, we've been here for weeks and we haven't seen her." With this kind of a magical of a story, that could also be true, or it could just be exaggeration. Been like 5 hours since we haven't seen her.
The dead guy that they do find in this scene is a great dead guy. That coiled up hand above him in panel 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the death face, man.
It is the death. It's the death grip, and it carries over into panel 5. Like, little details, but again, the body language master.
The internal operators at just the, right. The mansion, like, that is another one of those panels where it's all black. It's a straight on view of the back of these girls, and it's just white circles, and you know what that is. You know that's one of those pegboards where they're pulling out the little fuses or whatever and popping in the little jacks.
Yes, and this is where all of our, like, under 35 audience is so confused.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So this is a pretty fascinating bit of storytelling here, where he's still dealing with the chick. Like, all this stuff happened, you know, moment by moment. Selling how tiny she is. This is really funny. Finally gets her to chill out. And from this panel to this panel...
That's a time jump.
Yeah, some stuff happened in those gutters. And some fucking went down. And he has that, like, bust a load, but, like, guilt feeling. Where he's like, damn, I know I was aggressive, man, but it seemed like you wanted it. Like, he didn't know. He was just kind of going with emotion. And she's like, don't trip. I did want it. And then you get Gilbert to draw a panel.
Yeah. So bizarre.
It's amazing.
Boy, Maggie in the center of that page. Great use of a 9-panel grid almost as a frame around that panel.
Yeah, you know, another thing that we're seeing
and
in
Good
here...
Girl is even the appropriate thing to write on there. You know, it feels like pinup art.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still early enough in Love and Rockets comics that we're seeing Jaime use some interesting lines that we don't often see.
Yeah, this hatching, like, really, I think, goes away.
Yeah, and even this kind of thing,
right.
This kind of harsh lighting, doesn't happen. And here's another example, that kind of, like, harsh middle light, whenever there's something is being lit directly. It's always the most... You have to really change your brain. When you're drawing, you have to kind of change your way of thinking, because when you have, like, the little cylinder, like the little ball sphere that you're lighting, and here's the light source up here, and you have a tendency like, oh, okay, darkest shadow back here, and then you fade to the white. But that isn't how it works. So if you're using true observation, like, the part that's getting hit with the light is the lightest, and then it's the darkest, and if there's rim lighting or something, then it fades that way. So Jaime doesn't use this kind of technique very often at all, but it does sell you on that smoldering, like that hot sun. And, you know, Izzy Rubin's fully on character, dude. I'm telling you, like, Lydia Dietz comes from Izzy Rubin's, man.
I like this texture for, I guess,
Marble? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's money, man. And then he has his grays at his disposal. We see them here with the curtain here. But you have this background figure, you know, this Jeeves kind of fella. And he pops thanks to those gray textures, those gray lines that Jaime gives you.
Yeah, he's feathering some of those lines and stuff. Like, I feel like that's a thing that goes away pretty early on.
Don't often see Jaime draw some 3-point perspective.
No, I was thinking that too.
Highly effective. And it's just that great. It's almost cinematic because the window plays importance in this image. You don't know why until you go to the next one and you see that you know, it's a Maggie point of view.
Yeah, it's a great transition. Classic comic book kind of transitions. And here's another one as they walk through this statue gallery across 3 panels.
HR got some loot.
Yeah, he does. Got to be fun showing that stuff off. What a weird concept for a story.
Yeah. And throughout, like, when the girls go exploring, they never see the same room twice. They never ever do. Pretty cool transition here when our dude who was hiding finally kicks her out. He's kind of like, go be with your friends. They're going to start asking questions. It's going to be weird. But I think it's pretty solid for his character also because he promotes himself as being kind of like a lone wolf kind of character. And in certain ways, like, there's a push-pull. He loves her, but he's used to being on his own also. So we have her exit, and then we have her entrance. And this is another one of those beautiful things because you see the economy of Jaime in this. There's one gray, there's white, and there's black. And look at how he breaks up all these shapes. It's almost like a master exercise of spatial relationships or something. Continuing with the acting, you know, you got Maggie hopping up on the table, getting naked. And wow, Hopi, man, she reminds me of me, dude. Like, whenever you get to go to some bougie stuff, or like, remember when we were at TCAF and you wanted to go to that raw restaurant? I'm like, yeah, let's do that, man, after the show. And we did, and we got dinner there. And then afterward, I was like, Jimmy, can you come with me so I could go get some hamburgers now? Like, because, like, I ate the dinner there, and I'm like, I'm not even full. I need to get a hamburger. So Hopi's just like, I need some PB&J because they're giving me caviar all day or whatever.
Yeah. Izzy too. She's done.
Izzy's like classic psychic vampire. Like, you could give her the greatest situation ever. She will find a problem. How about that middle panel, dude? That lighting there.
There have been a couple of bangers like that. You know, doorway light coming into a dark hallway. It's gorgeous.
Another great storytelling piece on this last tier here, where your butler kind of character just pops in with a smoking shotgun. And it was like, there was an intruder. We found him. A prowler. He went out the window. I might have gotten him. But I don't think he'll come back. As she's looking out, and you see her, you know, she's sad about that.
It's another visual throwback to that unusual perspective panel couple that opened this chapter.
Yeah.
Where we're looking up at the windows, and here we end the chapter looking up at the windows.
Another great thing about this particular story is the economy and the passage of time and how much he cuts out that you don't necessarily need, but you don't get confused when it's brought back up, because when we get to part 4, the party's happening. This is a great opportunity for you. I mean, there's a two-headed lady. Like, Jaime's having a ball doing this page.
I didn't even catch that two-headed lady before. That's amazing.
Yeah. And Maggie spilled the beans. Like, she was running around with some dude in the house, and I feel sad that she didn't tell her homies. But Hopi, she's a street chick, you know. She's hardcore. She's like, listen, man, you promised a dude, you have a lot of clout, you have a lot of ethics to me, because you said you weren't going to do something and you didn't, and you get props for that. You know, that's that homeboy shit. throughout this whole thing, those girls are eating. They're eating well, man. Catching looks at the people in the party. It's established that, you know, there's some female wrestler that's there for security, and there's like another female wrestler that's there to watch the initial female wrestler, because they got word on the street somebody's going after HR Costigan. Like, look at these cartooned guys.
What is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's nearly Mos Eisley's Cantina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that in that opening part 4 splash.
Yeah, there's our heel wrestler who's working security, but then there's our face that's working security. Running joke with Rand Race, always calling Maggie Margie.
Right.
So you got to get that in there. The relationships that he establishes, how Rand Race is always pining over Penny Century. Penny Century is always kind of a coquette towards him, kind of like holding him at arm's length, while Maggie is always excited to be around Rand, try to make some time with him, but that never prospers into anything.
This is a Jamie Hewlett.
Absolutely.
Leg, if I ever saw one. Foot, boot.
My goodness, man. The storytelling. So this girl right here, once we get into issue 5, you're going to see her and her twin are going to be a part of that. That's amazing. But yeah, absolutely, Jamie Hewlett. Didn't Hewlett even call himself, like, spell his name with an X or some weird, or
maybe.
He did something very Jaime-like in his signature. I forget exactly what it was. You know, on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, we always call out whenever everybody's standing on that horizon line for the perspective. And he's done this a couple of times up to this point in Love and Rockets, where there is a mass of characters all overlapping, and through that brilliant use of his black, white, gray, pushes and pulls forms out as he needs. This is another one of these textures that you don't see Jaime do very often, and I don't know that he's much of a hatcher or like a featherer, really. Like, even with the pen, so like he might have even drawn some of that. I don't know that it's a flick.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of stuff in this black and white, just that splash.
Absolutely.
That feels like things that you would see other people do. I see hints that I would see in Sin City, almost a decade later.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, to think of, like, there's a short list of great black and white artists in comics.
Sure.
And Jaime really picks up the mantle around this time.
Absolutely. And like, so one of the pieces that I'm looking at a lot is how he's using the gray of this guy's suit to kind of push and pull forms, because there's white behind the gray and there's white in front also, and even black.
Yeah, and you see it because it's unusual to put black in the front,
yeah,
like on Hopi's pants and shoes, but you'll see another one of those grays in the form of the checkered suit behind her.
And Kayfabers, have you been making note? We've been in Costigan's mansion the entire time, but like, you don't need that much background once everything is established.
Yes. And our troublemaker has returned to the party. Yeah,
dude. And he's coming back. It's like when Lone Star from Spaceballs finds out that he's a prince, and he's got the attire on. So with all of the chatter about the terrorist is in here, with what was established in the pages previously and how this guy wanted to get at Costigan, it makes perfect sense that, okay, he's the terrorist. That's what the chatter's all about. And if we know... this demoness heel wrestler must know. Dispatches our boy quick. There goes our Costigan. He's a vestige. He's so funny because like he shows up throughout the issues, and it's like, this dude got demon horns, man.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's still holding on to the Rockets part of the Love and Rockets a little bit with that guy. So it becomes a rope-a-dope as the attention is being drawn by Lone Star from Spaceballs. That's our move for our Squeaky Fromm type character to pop out of left field, put that gun straight to the head. I think about this dude, and I think about Ronald Reagan. Like that was made the same year maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. I look at that and I see Kirby.
Oh yeah,
through and through. And even on the chapter breaks, like the part 3, part 4,
very Silver Age,
Marvel. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the pieces that I liked as a kid so much is when the chick terrorist gets tossed through the stained glass, and just it's a stick figure with a break, around it and some broken glass. It's a perfect panel. And now the heel is just like having fun watching the chaos go down. In the midst of it all, Maggie and Lone Star, Casey, they get one last moment together, and this is the stuff, right? This is the heart of Love and Rockets right Absolutely. Here. The relationship between Maggie and Hopi, where Maggie does not know that Hopi is there. It's beautifully laid out. Like you see Hopi coming up, hiding behind a corner. We see her right there as the conversation is happening, and it's a deep conversation. This guy, like Maggie and Casey, they've established a relationship. They really like each other. He wants her to make a big move because he's that lone wolf kind of transient fella. Come with me. It's a very romantic notion. Come with me. We could be whatever we want. And at the time, she's like, listen, maybe in 5 years, but right now, there's no one I want to be with more than my friend Hopi. And Hopi hears it. But what's interesting is that look on her face. It's kind of like a dead look, because how do you feel about... You can't feel the greatest sense of security knowing that right now Maggie wants to be with you, but things could be different in 5 years.
It is an unusual expression on Hopi's face there.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
So But
there's weird stuff with her in this story too. Like at one point she's leading Maggie to race.
Right.
With the idea that she likes him. So it feels like Hopi's kind of maybe experiencing a version of these feelings too.
Sure.
And probably not something she's happy to accept. Yeah,
the interesting thing with this being the comic that was being sort of out at the time when Jaime was on Comic Book Confidential, he talks about Hopi, Maggie, friends, but possible lovers. Like, it wasn't so spelled out at that moment. He's leaving some ambiguity there. Or Betty and Veronica are back together, and they split. Look at that, dude. It's like bathroom signage.
Yes. Icons.
And Daffy, the person that Maggie feared would be getting the boots.
Got the boots.
And $2 off the price. Salt in the wounds, man. Fantastic comic. I've read this comic so many times. I think in book collections, Gary Groth said there's about 7 other pages in book collections to massage this story, and I'm so curious.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go track one of those down, because I think I have this story in 3 or 4 forms.
Right. But you see, 9-panel grids, big splash page, allow some room for a big one every now and then when it counts. That's the exercise he gave for himself. Twitch City is a Gilbert effort in Beto color, and he's given himself some parameters. We're getting all landscape panels.
Widescreen.
And look at his use of texture.
Very different style than we're going to see from him even in the next story in the book.
Putting a brush to use, doing some heavy inking. We saw his work in like Errata Stigmata, I think, showed up in issue 3, where he was using this similar kind of style. And we're dealing with like a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, policewoman of Twitch City. Sees these dudes with the dicks. See, that's Beto humor, man. Roughing up some guy. Our girl, I actually had to read this story a couple of times, to be honest with you, to like completely get it. Roughs up the baddies, like I think the trouble for me was like the gloves. Like I could see her maybe having the gloves aren't established, so you didn't exactly know who belongs to them. But she saves this dude that was getting roughed up, and now he's on her balls, and it's like she's got to figure out how to fucking get rid of this fella.
Eternally grateful. The victim.
You see like a Klaus Nomi Bauhaus kind of aesthetic.
It's very strange. It makes me think about like what this is in response to. Like feels kind of heavy metalish, although graphically it's its own thing.
Yeah.
But a weird science fiction story.
Yeah, man. So we saw our girl, she roughed up those heavies. Look at the spotlight that he's given his girl, and you see the two bad guys with wounded faces already. These are the same guys that she dispatched early on. 1, 2, good night. Just kind of blood, almost as black as a panel can be. But when you see those edges, you see the splat, and you know it ain't a good thing. And she gets concussed, man. She's dreaming about Frida Kahlo and shit.
Yes, and as she wakes up, we see what happens to, I guess, law enforcement in this.
Yeah, she got jacked up, and she's seeing the eclipse of that guy. One good turn, like one hand washes the other. The dude that was being victimized by those dudes is picking her up, takes her to the police station, and the people at the police station are like, listen, don't get blood on the rugs, man. The chief will be mad about that. Splits as this dude is still following her. Follows her home. 16 years old. Mom is on the couch with some drunk dude or whatever. Stepdad. Gets some cottage cheese. Takes the weirdo dude up to her room and just what is this? Like he gets to fuck her because he helped her?
Yeah, unclear there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she likes it.
Yeah, I don't know about this story or how it fits like in a bigger, if there are a series of these stories that kind of cement this world a little bit more, or if it's something that Beto goes away from.
The cool thing about the 64-page format of the first 4 issues is, like I said earlier, one brother was tasked with like the big story, like the A story of the issue, and then the other brother could kind of like pump the brakes a little bit, have some space to be a little bit more experimental. Like they're not the one doing the heaviest lifting of that issue. I hesitate to say much more, like, because we have part 2 of Palomar in here, and it's very, very deep, very rich. Yeah, right. But they have flyer stories, like where like they're going to try some shit, and it might work, it might not work, but that's the beauty of it to me.
Yeah, it's also the advantage of looking at this stuff years after the fact, and seeing kind of like what sticks.
Sure.
Very, very. I was going to say restless. I don't know if that's even the right word. But it's young cartoonists that are really doing things that haven't been done before. So some do connect more than others. Maybe with the cartoonists themselves as well. And
the other cool part too, man, just for genre fans, shit like there still is some Rockets in these issues of Love and Rockets. It's only issue number 4 that does not get phased out. I don't think it ever really gets phased out, but depending on the issue, it's more love or more Rockets. And Music for Monsters is very steeped into the Rockets part of our comic. The other thing that's funny too is how like they know there's some writing being done about the bros at this point, and articles are coming out there and really giving them props for what they're bringing to the game. And this issue feels like they're aware of that kind of shit. So like there's flat out dialogue. I mean, do all comic gals have to be raped and have their husbands killed or carry bowling balls on their chest to get anywhere? Like, that would be the stuff that would be in those articles. Like, all comics don't have to be this or that. So they're like very, very aware of how their work is being perceived. And Gilbert is actually like leaning into that.
Yes. Yeah, and it's funny that dialogue would make sense 20 years later.
Sure.
I feel like it's not gone away, not evolved much.
Yeah.
I like this part too. The first panel, I've read all my comics 9 times each. She's stranded on this giant egg that she's watching.
At this time, when I first got this issue, that could be me. Like I would read all my comics on the weekends after school. I would look forward to it. I can't wait till Friday so I could spend the weekend reading my 2 stacks of comics all over again. Even on that desert island, the girls fight because one of the comics that Blondie has belongs to the other chick. The comic falls into the ocean, so got to go down and get it, but also put some depth charges down there and destroy your BEM of the issue.
Yeah, I feel like this is very much in that EC tradition of lettering, that sound effect.
Very much Ben Oda,
yeah, no accident. And I love this monster regular normal version of the monster, exploded version where you see it being expressed in the drawing.
Introducing everybody to Rocky and Fumble, outer space. What an image, huh?
This is a pretty cool, I think, all around visually. Like seeing Jaime do outer space is really fun, and like reverse silhouettes. It ends up they claim Rocky and Fumble claim this asteroid as her planet.
Yes.
And she's going to be the queen on this planet, but meanwhile, somebody else has the same idea. And so you get it in this panel as like both sides of this planet being claimed by the respective characters. And of course, that can't work.
Seeing these proportions and stuff, like, it feels like Mignola would see that and start to push some of his proportions and things. Because he wasn't drawn like this before, like at this time.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty traditional. And, like, Jaime would tell stories that more than once, Mike Mignola would come up to them and be like, I always wanted to meet you guys. And, like, Jaime would be like, well, we met 3 times.
Well, it goes back to that idea of, like, who the great black and white artists are.
Yeah.
Mike Mignola is going to pick up that mantle a decade after this book. But Jaime's a guy right now.
The beautiful, the whimsy of the cartooning, man, like, their flag is one thing and his flag is some boxer shorts. Like, that is just beautiful. That is funny.
It is.
And it's visual. Even the simple character of Fumble with the kind of pill body is drawn expertly with perfect lines, like the little highlight lines. We talk about that in color, like the little white on the ridge to kind of sell the 3D. Like, I'm telling you, dude, in the Tales of Asgard, it's a Ron Frenz issue of Thor that has an orange background. It has Doctor Doom holding an hourglass, and it's Hercules and Thor is inside the hourglass. That was a comic I had at this time. And Mignola does the Tales from Asgard back up in there, and it's a thing I talked about on the shoot interview where I'm like, dude, that was your proto Hellboy, because it's got the broken off horns and shit. It's like this dude.
Yeah, it's very close. Man, look at the great silhouette of that panel.
Yeah, dude. Like,
it's amazing.
As this big bad guy is trying to stake his claim, he's being very destructive as he's trying to catch our girl, but she's just too quick for him.
And hits Rocky in the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or hits Fumble, I should say. Reading this, I felt bad.
Yeah, totally.
Like, oh man, her little pal is disintegrated. I was so happy when it turns out that he's okay.
Yeah, it's cartoons.
I felt real relief.
But after all that destruction, see, there's like a metaphor, comic strip or something. Because, like, here's your planet now, fella. Enjoy. And our girl don't have anything either.
No.
You see the rocket ship kind of busted into a piece of the asteroid there. So good, dude. And this is Jaime's idea of, like, well, I got to do 4 more pages. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's ridiculous. It's showing off.
It is. It definitely is.
All right, man. Part 2 of Welcome to Palomar. Very often in future stuff. Okay, yeah, Gilbert does it from here also. First couple of pages, catching you up to speed with the characters. You see all this wording, and it makes you nervous to see it because we know what that is in an X-Men comic or something. Pleasure to read. So beautiful. This is not showing and telling, and it's giving you really cool aspects to the characters. And what this Palomar story feels like, to me, there's not like a specific plot point. You can't describe it easy. He created this town. He created 15 characters. He put them in there, and it's like he's playing God just watching an ant farm. They all have their own interests, their own goals, their own obstacles, and he's letting them all interact, and you're watching it on the page. It is a pleasure to read, man.
It is, and it is a staggering amount of voices and motivations to keep clear, because we even have multiple generations. So you have kids that are on very different wavelengths than, like, let's say the adults.
Yeah, and even the adults have their flaws.
Oh, everybody has flaws.
Very important to establish our little bit of magical realism that takes place where one character is able to see the ghost of like a former friend, like somebody who from the town who just sits there and waves. We see that 2 panels after we establish the death of Toko, who was the most visually fun character of that first story, running around coughing and being a little hooligan. He has some kind of cystic fibrosis or something. He's toast. He's done. So we're not going to see him anymore until we see him again. But what Gilbert will do with his bigger stories that continue over issues, and it's really effective when it's collected in trade paperbacks, is this is part 2. So it's page 1 of part 2 after you get the exposition, but it's page 23 of the bigger story that's being told. This is the OG Bandora bathhouse lady who's responsible for hooking all the dudes up, making sure all the dudes in town are clean.
And the badass.
Yeah, muscular, tough.
Yeah, super strong. And not in a sense of superhero, but she's a tough character.
We saw, I think, in the first 100 Room story, the operator ladies were reading, like, Little Peanuts or something, paperback. Yeah, what is it? Oh, yeah, a Mad paperback. In this one, Pep Comics, shouts to Harry Lucy. Our boy Manuel, he's the Lothario of Palomar, man. Gets a lot of chicks, and I think he banged Luba the first round. He's messing around with this 14-year-old.
Yeah, I was thinking that he had another go round with Luba this issue, but I'm not sure they actually have any romantic entanglement. He's
got the super sperm, and it's Chekhov's jizz, Jim. Yeah, Chekhov's jizz. You establish it in the beginning, pay it off a little bit later. Whenever these guys get real romantic, man, and they get spun around.
Yeah, Pipo is smitten.
Yeah.
And Manuel is not maybe not reciprocating those feelings.
He digs it, but then he's ravenous. You know, he says something like, I want to bang every girl in the world, he says. Got the little siblings. This is a great little sequence, man, where she's clearly pining, and the little brother doesn't know, like, he's all thumbs, as dudes are. You don't grow out of this.
Right.
You know, and then, like, the even littler sister knows that he did wrong socially, and it's all captured kind of visually. It's very nice, both to the point where people goes running off and the little sis lets him know that he did wrong.
I love these characters in that, you know, like, these are... People has a life. Like, she's not just eye candy or supporting character. Like, sure. She has her own agency, dealing with these kids, kind of running this household. I don't know, man. There's a real sense of, like, reality. This
is the way Gilbert works, the way he makes his comics. I sit there, I look at this stuff, and the thing that always comes to mind is, like, how do you do something like this? How is it possible to make this? Because it's an effortless read. Like, it's such a pleasure to just fall into this world. It's effortless to fall into this world. And I never want to leave, man. Like, and then I start getting, like, questions in mind, like, well, what are the fellas up to right at this moment? You know, because everybody's living in the exact time space. Mm-hmm. So now you have to juggle that kind of shit, because the transitions will be that way, page to page, where you have this stuff going on, and, you know, you enter your next round of characters, you know, in a transition like that, because that's what it flows in a way that I don't understand how you can do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and we've seen interviews where Alan Moore sings the praises of Love and Rockets, and it feels like, in a weird way, how Watchmen is so tightly plotted, where, like, every character has the moment, like, what are they doing at this moment whenever something's happening?
Right.
I feel that way about the characters in Palomar. Like, if I were trying to reverse engineer how you do this, you've got a big board with all these characters and, like, where they are, who they're interacting with, what they're after.
And the part that's even more fucked up is you see the boys young, but then you're going to see these dudes grown up on, like, the next story. And then there might be another young story. And they just... So now they all exist in the same time space, but then he's going to do the future version of them, you know, next go round.
Yeah.
and they all change. The dynamics are all kind of different. This is Luba's effect on the town. Right there.
By the way, what we were learning with those kids is that one of them told Soul Dad, who likes Peepo, that Peepo's involved with Manuel.
Yeah.
That's a lot of laying the groundwork for how this story's going to unfold.
There's the town sheriff. He's at the whim of our OG bathhouse chick, and that'll provide the battery in his back to go tell Luba what's up.
That's right.
The one boy is like, nothing. I never see anything cool. Like, you get to see the ghost. I don't get to see anything cool. I just got to saw a two-headed turtle once, and then the other dude lets him know that that's a pretty cool thing, and he's like, you know what? That is pretty cool. I miss seeing him. Perfect kid dialogue.
Yes.
Is that a function of Gilbert growing up in a house full of siblings and stuff, and you just got an ear for that? This is definitely the issue where I realize, you will never make comics like this. You do not have the experience that the bros have, so you better just figure out how to make your own kind of comic, because it's impossible to even approximate this if you don't have a lot of tools that these dudes just have, through life, through experience, whatever.
It is mind-boggling. What is going on in this story is just, I can't even picture it for 1982, 1983, whenever this is published, reading this compared to what would have been out.
Yeah, and it's there's no Reader's Digest way to describe this, because it would be like trying to describe that movie Tampopo, where it's the lady just wants to have the greatest noodle shop, and that sounds boring.
Right.
I feel like you could run the risk of trying to explain what this is, and it's just well, what do I care? But you have to give it a shot. You have to see for yourself. I think I mentioned it previously, man, but Manuel's choice of attire, you could tell about the passage of time by the shirts, because he always wears patterns. And that pattern is different than this pattern, so that lets you know that it's a different day.
Yeah, you see a few days go on that page. The artwork too. I feel like Beto gets short shrift when it comes to artwork, and I probably say this every time we look at one of these early issues. But I see hints of things like Ditko and various artists in here. I think his art's amazing. He's able to call up very classic cartoon tropes as part of that language.
Yeah.
And there are panels that remind me of Mazzucchelli, especially some of the rubber blanket stuff. And I got to imagine this is an influence on Mazzucchelli as he veers away from that Marvel DC style into more alternative style, for lack of a better descriptor.
Yeah.
But it's you see those moments, and he's another great black and white artist. We see many of these silhouettes, and it's the character designs are all distinct. Any of these characters you could identify just in silhouette.
Yeah, running the risk of saying the same stuff in previous episodes, which it's just going to happen. We got the Love and Rockets playlist up now once this goes live, and we might say the same stuff. But I think of Jaime. Jaime is when you read that Outliers book, and you read about the part where all the all-star hockey players have January birthdays because they were the runt on the team and they had to stack up. Jaime's the runt of Gilbert and Mario. So in order to be part of the conversation, he's got to work his little ass off,
look at this for a panel of just great visuals. The language, the lettering, they're using every tool that comes with cartooning.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And what's happening is that sheriff, he's confronting Luba. I don't know that we need two banana massagers or whatever those chicks do.
Yeah.
Is it just implied, or is it not even implied? Do dudes really, you can't bathe yourself?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the mechanics of the bathing is. But you know what, man? Speaking of some cool stuff, she whips his ass. That is a pretty violent sequence on that page, and you see him walking away with his face bleeding and bruised.
You got to take it.
But yes, the sheriff comes then to get Luba with his directions from Cello.
Yes,
got to get rid of the competition.
And he's fuck it, man.
Bribes her with the beer, they're going to be friendly or whatever, and he's public drinking.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're both in jail.
Dude, it's like
This is a plan.
for sure, dude. It's a squash match. It's a super card.
Dude, they've set it up like there's a grudge match in the cage.
Yeah, totally, man. Everybody kind of settling in for. Everybody has their arc too. That's the thing, right? So like everybody's kind of coming to peace with how their arc is playing out. The boys in the town, when they realize like that both banana massage ladies are in that cell together, they're like, yo, when they fight, they might be ripping each other's clothes off. These would be like, those are the little dudes that are looking for like dumpster porn and woods porn, like, oh man, a free titty, let's go check it.
Yeah, 100%. And again, with the cartoon language of them like all stacked up, heads peeking around the corner.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So great.
And as one could have predicted, our girls are not fighting, and in fact, they're bonding.
Yeah, they're making their own plans.
So that's how that piece wraps up, man. But Manuel's still out in the world, and he was banging some people that other people wanted to bang. So he's literally going to get banged with a gun in the stomach. And that's the uproar of the town, right? It's a sleepy town. Everybody knows everybody. And you can see people could just walk into jail to like look at people in cells. So they can't take that shit too seriously. Everybody needs everyone's help in order to build these adobes and whatever.
It's one of the great parts about the setting that he's created. Under 400 people live in there. That means they do all know each other, and they all, man, it's gossip heavy.
Sure.
Even with the kids. And it's funny because the stuff the kids are saying isn't quite accurate. It's different players.
Right.
Like, it really is that game of telephone where what they're repeating just is not accurate to what we're going to see in the scene.
Yeah.
That's pretty good storytelling, too. It's a form of unreliable narrator. You know what it is? It's eyewitnesses.
It is,
You always hear about how unreliable eyewitnesses are.
Yep. And just, it's telephone, too. Like, the kids are always going to be second, third-hand sources.
Absolutely.
So, because Manuel bangs Soledad, he catches some lead to the tongue piece.
Pipo. I think it's Soledad that's coming after him because Soledad...
Oh, yeah,
Pipo.
that's right. Right. Yeah. So, Manuel... He's done.
Does he die? I wasn't clear on that.
Oh, yeah, because, like, the very last panel will let you know.
Okay.
Little Carmen, who's the badass of the whole crew. She's a funny character, because she's a piece of magical realism.
She is, definitely. And they talk about just finding her and, like, that personality.
and she always stayed the same size for, like, 5 years, so she's, like, perpetually 10.
Yeah, like a little devil child. We also see...
You know what? I think this is the shit... I might be wrong, but when Gilbert's shit got banned from some Midwestern library...
Get out.
It was this shit. Because it was like... they called it child porn. Ugh. And it was these panels that, some housefrau, fucking bored-ass mom in Vegas or whatever... had an uproar.
But you do see the legacy of Manuel in Luba and Pipo there.
Yes, you do.
Laying the seeds for the future. You also see the results of that time spent in lockup between Luba and Cello. Cello taking on that mantle of, that's how I think of her as the sheriff of Palomar. So kind of fun to see her ascendancy in this story.
Absolutely. And...
oh, I see.
You see it?
Yeah, right.
Our dude, I don't know how to say the name. Gilbert is so conscious about giving you the pronunciations, but I'm no good at that. The guy who could see the ghost, can see Toko is now a ghost, and there is Manuel as a ghost. These are the blue Jedi ghosts of Palomar, and only he could see it. So the one dude is like, are all three of them there? Yep, all three of them are there today. It ends as it should, like in the first part you establish the ghost. That's a one odd piece of the entire town. You close out with two more bodies, man. That solidifies like an entire arc. An expanse of time has transpired in 42 pages, 220-page bursts, full of life, full of heart, full of craft.
Incredible comics. Look at the marks right here. These are like markers or brush strokes just being drugged down the page. Yeah. I love that kind of inventiveness. But you're totally right about the full of life kind of thing. Like, it feels like observation. Like, it's impossible to sit here and think like this is some sort of autobiography. but also that would at least explain some of this
No.
stuff, like draw from something. How do you just make this up whole cloth?
And the thing is, Gilbert, he didn't trade any of his personal stats to like do this. Like he's still, he's a father, he's a normal dude, you could talk to him, but like the level of imagination in here is nearly Henry Darger level of like Vivian girls, like having like this expansive universe that's really like thought out. It's just like whatever his life experience comes from, he's able to like be a normal person, but also have such a vivid imagination enough to create, 20 completely singular characters that you never get confused by, and have them interact and always keep up with the relationships. Like comics tropes. Chris Pierce, he interviews Larry Hama about G.I. Joe, and Larry Hama's just like, oh, I made it up every month. And like, if I brought somebody back that I accidentally killed, I just said, oh, he was a spy, he was undercover. It's completely dashed out. It's hackery, really. Like, you got to get a story done every month. These dudes, they're playing a different game.
What level of confidence for this being like issue 3 and 4 pulling this story out?
Unbelievable.
And if you're Gary Groth and you were like, oh, I saw the first issue and how to publish these dudes, what are you thinking at the end of issue 4 here? Like, better than whatever you expected.
It's got to be the most gratifying part of being a publisher. Just running the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel with you, Jimmy. We have the P.O. box out there, and we get hundreds of pieces of mail every single week. And sometimes exceptional stuff. There's so much good comes through, but sometimes there's exceptionally good stuff, and that rings out.
Yeah.
Like, and as a publisher, when you have your submission guidelines open, it's probably they're getting the same stuff that we get. But then when you get that one piece that's just magic, like that's the stuff. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Man, magic is the word for it. What an issue! Like at this point, it's just undeniable. Like we've got 2 new masters have showed up at the comic book store in Love and Rockets, and I mean this by the end of issue 4, it's just solidified.
These comics inspire me so much. It's been a while since we did issue 3. Jimmy, I want to do issue 5 ASAP.
Yeah.
You good to go?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's out there, man.
Hulk Grand Design, Monster Madness. The issues are in comic book shops now as we speak. And the oversized Treasury Edition will be out in early 2023. So pre-order that wherever you get your books or comics. Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is back in print after a long time off the shelves from Image Comics. Again, available wherever comics are bought and sold. And you can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg to see lots more of my comics and art.
Red Room trigger warnings. Red Room, the antisocial network, are out there on the stands as we speak. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. Each of these books completely self-contained, contain 4 issues worth of comics apiece, with 70 pages or so of additional materials in each to make these very unique items to get. But once again, they are standalone, so no matter which one, take your pick, give it a shot, and hit up my Patreon. For $3, you get all of this material, plus the new stuff that I'm serializing. $3. Every Tuesday, new strips. You can get there by way of my link tree in the description below this video. Jimmy, what else do we have out there, man?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merchandise at the links below this video.
It's another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders, Jim. We'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
The beauty of every other issue is that it is a manageable 32 pages, so that like we don't have like an hour longer, but like you need it for
it's such
for
a
this
foundation. And man, what an issue!
Oh, unbelievable.
For single issues, you'd be hard pressed to find something more impressive.
Absolutely. On such a like never a flyer. All right, chat room. Now comes the Jimmy flips. Had to record on a Tuesday late today to accommodate the schedule of the guy we're going to be shoot interviewing at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's take a look and see what our time is now. 2 hours to go. That'll give us plenty of time to set up and for me and Jimmy to figure out our strategy for our conversation. If you haven't checked out our Drew Friedman shoot interview, I recommend you do that. He was one of my favorite cartoonists growing up. I had a phase where I was making comics like trying to be Drew Friedman. So give that shoot and review a shot.
Where do you want to go next?
Oh, Jimmy. Pick your pleasure. Let's end on a high note with the manga, because that's probably the one that would be the chillest about. I'm missing some middle issues of this.
I don't have a full run of that.
Yeah, there's like a middle section. I have the end, and I have maybe the first 8, the last 10.
Yeah.
And a little bit in between. Unbelievable, this fucking thing. Jim.
We'll have fun with this.
Ready when you are, James?
Yeah, man, hit it. Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
Couple of travel notes before we begin this video. Saturday, October 22nd, I will be at Jacksonville Public Library for their comic and zine festival. And the end of the month, we will be at Baltimore Comic-Con, October 28th through the 30th. Come out, say hello. That's a great comic book show. And you can find Ed in November 25th through the 27th with Jeff Darrow at Tokyo Comic-Con. It is Kayfabe-tober. We are in the midst of these drawing prompts. Some really great stuff showing up in our social media feeds. You can find this whole list in our Instagram and Twitter. And if you do participate, please tag us so that we can share some of these great drawings. It's been very fun watching the talented Cartoonist Kayfabe audience posting these drawings. We are working Cartoonist, and that's how we pay to make these videos on Cartoonist Kayfabe. So support us by picking up our books. Ed Piscor's Red Room, Antisocial Network, and Red Room Trigger Warnings are both out now. These are both self-contained. So whichever volume you run into first, that's the one to start with. And you can get those anywhere right now while supplies last. My latest is Hulk Grand Design Monster Madness. 2 issues available in comic shops now. And in early 2023, the Hulk Grand Design Treasury Edition will be out. So pre-order that one now. Let them know how many copies they should print. And Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, after a year out of print, is back on the shelves from Image Comics. 8 complete full-color stories. So add that to your Christmas list right now. Today's comic. We are going to look at the Hulk Pit crossover by Peter David, longtime Hulk writer, and Del Keown. The perfect companion for Hulk Grand Design? Maybe not. We'll see. Del Keown was my Hulk artist. So, you know, at the time of this is 1997, whenever this book comes out. A good artist for me in terms of association with the Hulk. And, of course, Pit was his Image book. Comes out at the end of the first year of Image Comics. A lot of delays on that book, but about 20 issues published in all. And it's funny because at this point, you don't see an Image eye on here. Pitt breaks away from Image at some point and is self-published or published under Full Bleed Studios by Del Keown. But this is how they were doing these crossovers, right? Whenever you would have X-Force and Youngblood, you'd have Rob Liefeld involved. If you're going to have Hulk and Pitt, got to bring Del Keown in. And it's kind of a good team, you know? It's a good creative team for what looks like a fun crossover. 2 monsters fighting.
Page 1, panel 1, Peter David cutting promos already. Have you ever met someone and taken an instant dislike to them? And that's over top of the Pit head?
Yes.
Also, I almost was fucking fully checked out on page 1 because how do you read this? How am I supposed to read this? Like, if you want me to read this, then I feel like I need to go here and end here, but you don't because the ellipsis here continues on the next page. So I think it's this, and then you can read that whenever you want.
Or not at all. Like, what does this even mean, reality?
Yeah, and I like Chris Eliopoulos, but, like, I think, you know, these guys, maybe the penciler had the panel placement or something, but there's no flow to it. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this comic, man.
Dan Panosian is inking, so this is not Del Keown doing all of the artwork himself. And I make note of that because, like, overall, there's a lot of disappointment for me in this book.
It's true.
And you can already see it, like, in a way with the color.
Yeah.
I think on this spread.
It's
you
the
can kind of
paper.
see, like, this background. Yeah, the paper. Even the lettering. That reality check title.
Not very good. Some ideas, like just having this kind of setup, dude. Like that's I'm on board. But this is a regression of Dale Keown's art back to the days of Aircel in a certain way, man. Like with a lot of the cartooning here, he's not putting in, like, he reached a certain level of hatching and double lighting before this period, and he's never hit it again.
You know, that actually makes me feel good, because I would look at his double lighting and just marvel at it. And you know what this tells me? It's really hard to do. It takes time. So that's good. There's no easy secret to it.
The thing is, what Panosian does with the inks, he really flattens out the forms a lot. And that's something that Keown wouldn't do on his own. He would maintain volume and allow for the 3D of the characters, but like that's very, very flat. And then this is that shit that just made all the old timers so fucking upset about the 90s artists of using the same textures on rocks and flesh.
Very well said. It's a great example of it. And this should work. You know what I mean? Like, I was looking at this all week because I was mostly disappointed in revisiting this.
Yeah, pretty bad.
And it's like, this is what I want in a crossover. I want these characters to fight, and here we go, man. You know, a couple pages in, and that's all we're getting. They're using, like, bones and you know, from a mammoth or something. I don't know where you get a bone this size.
Right.
But clubbing each other with them, and yet something feels a little bit hollow.
I'm imagining something like this. The draw is Dale Keown, and I'm imagining that there's a lot of, like, Marvel method here. So Peter David is the also ran. Whether he's been the writer for, like, who cares about, like, you know, okay, good, you were the writer for a million years, whatever. He's the also ran, so he's got to try to make sense of this with wording, and his jokey joke shit, it doesn't cut it. It's tone deaf to the art. You know, it's a level of corny on top of this.
Right.
Because, like, Dale Keown's, like, playing for serious right there, dude. and with the dialogue and captions, it's cornball shit. It's not metal.
Yeah, and what about the colors on your blood?
Yeah.
Like do something more.
Doesn't that
I think one of them even has different colored blood.
Yeah, like Pitt's a green guy, right? Green blood?
I think so. Some other color.
Yeah, it's almost like Marvel editorial, like, don't make it too red.
Brown is the least part, though. Like, I think of wrestling magazine covers of my youth. And it's like,
'cause they got the
red
mask.
is how you sell this stuff. Like, this should be such a violent thing. And with the bright poppy orange and yellows, I don't know. It's odd. And then, what the heck was that? Somebody was dreaming that?
Yeah.
I have no idea what we just saw.
Right, yeah. Like, and it doesn't, neither Dale Keown nor Peter David read that Alan Moore book on making comics in the transition part that we talk about, because it's full stop, it's cold, and you enter here. It's only after you read the whole thing that you kind of understand what you just saw.
And then I got really mad at this scene, because talk about dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Pittsdale University, go Pitt. I've heard a lot of go Pitt in my life.
Yeah.
Make it Pittsburgh. Come on. It's right in front of you. It's a real place, and we could have those Pitt signs, and then I'd feel very good. Would have maybe been 1 or 2 points higher on my scale.
Right. I thought that this drawing is very good. The back of the head, it feels like it's a good kid.
It is a pretty good kid. Yeah, I agree. Reading Rick Jones's autobiography, his memoir, Sidekick, doing all the Hulk stuff. The Sidekick book was one of the ideas I had for Grand Design as a way to have your through line through, like, a Hulk story. And it's pretty cool, that Rick Jones part. I'm glad to see that worked in there. That makes sense. Probably not too far off timing-wise either that this would be in here. It might have been a little bit earlier in Hulk continuity that this book came out, and there's storylines that go with that. But pretty fun to see that in here.
I like to think of Hulk being able to hide behind a tree. Like, whenever he's stalking somebody, just this big green fucking oaf.
Yes.
Hiding in some bushes.
In daylight, too, by the way.
Exactly.
But he's there to help out this kid who's having some kind of problems. At least that's, I think, the plan.
Yeah, little Timmy.
I don't know what's going on with this drawing, but I like this art. That feels kind of interesting. It's like a distorted pit thing.
Yeah, the way...
So maybe his, like, some kind of psychic thing, but just from a drawing standpoint.
Sure.
Almost feels like something you would do on a photocopier, although I don't think this was. But it has that kind of, like, weird distortion, and I like that. I love whenever somebody does a drawing thing that feels a little different.
Yeah, using maybe a French curve and keeping up with it. But, like, Little Timmy's some kind of, like, a psychic. He's like Billy Mooney in that Twilight Zone episode, and he's putting these guys in different realities, I think is what the deal is.
You know, to play devil's advocate for poor Peter David, I like Pitt, mostly looking at it. Man, I can't tell you what that story is.
No.
So it's pretty...
and you got the run, right?
Heavy lifting. I do have it.
Yeah.
And it's, I can't tell you what any of the story is from that series either.
Sure.
But we do have this lady painting pictures of Pitt. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, and right here the boy is taking command of her. So like, okay, this is effectively what we're doing right now. This is my second reading. So now, like, I know who she is from later, and I see that she's established here. But it's, like, so inelegant, like, it's unmemorable as you're reading it the first time, where you're just like, what, huh? As things go down.
And I love this trope of, like, the artist painting something and then that painting coming to life.
Sure.
Although I've seen it done a little better by a certain Wally Wood.
Great episode of Tales from the Crypt, the TV show with Harry Anderson from Night Court playing like a Jack Kamen type character. It's very good. My favorite episode because you see drawing on TV.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. Like, just a disjointed story. And this is in that wave whenever they're doing crossovers, Marvel. And I think it's an attempt to just, like, sell anything.
Yeah, sure.
Try to get any numbers. You know, like 97, pretty bleak on the sales scale. And so
I see what Peter David's trying to do also, to just, like, try to get some kind of story in there. So, like, Little Timmy is Pitt's, you know, human counterpart. Rick Jones makes sense. Like, try to get them together to come up with some MacGuffin to get our dudes to pounce. But call me simple. I would have just liked 30 pages of dudes pounding.
Yeah. They're both orphans. So
Yeah.
Timmy thinks his mom's coming, and Rick is trying to explain, like, that's...
Dude, your mom ain't coming, bro.
Not the way it works. The coloring is funny because... What time of day is this?
Right.
Just bright green. You know that the concept ought to be is that the Hulk glows a little bit because of his irradiation.
That's cool.
And then you could get away with this. But I don't think that's true. I didn't come across that anywhere.
This all, like, he's so good at doing the big muscle stuff, but we're gonna see some where he pushes it to a point of cartoony that's so far out. But, like, that, you know, the French braid musculature stuff, he's showing off a little bit right there. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he was very good at drawing the giant dudes, which, you know, he knew enough to do that whenever it was time to create his image book.
And see, when he's singing, like, this would be way different, but that's very dashed. He's one of those guys that he will shit out the boring panels so that he can spend a lot of time drawing the fun one.
Yes, but you pointed out the cross-hatching that's the same on a leg as it is on a rock, and I think this whole book suffers from that.
Sure.
Because, like, you see the it's not cross-hatching, but those parallel lines for your back muscles are exactly the same as, I don't know, the Sky Twilight or something like that. And
you're going to see a real bad one.
You lose something with that.
I think probably even on the next page is this one. Because it's really like, it's speed lines, but, like, we've seen enough of it that I'm like, holy fuck, Panosian, like, flattened this out so bad, but that's not what it's supposed to be. But it's on him, so it reads that way.
Yeah, right. It's supposed to be this the car being crushed together.
Yeah.
Or ripped apart or something.
Yeah, like, look at that span right there, dude.
Yeah, it's just feels fast.
Yeah, and totally kayfabe in the bottom parts of those back muscles, because, like, nobody ever really remembers how to draw those back muscles. So you always kind of, like, get the 2-3 like big pieces, and then you kind of futz around with, like, all the little ones. And that's just not too good of a. It looks like celery stalks.
And is it weird that the light source is, like, the lower part of his back?
Right. Yeah, dude, you're selling the monster. So this is like with the tire stuff, or did he already turn it to a ball? Because it's Chekhov's car mangle ball is established early because it plays a part in the end.
And by the way, is Rick is trying to explain the fantasy of Timmy's folks showing back up. Here comes his mom through the door.
Okay, yeah, here we go with the bowling ball.
All right. So now we are trying to get these pieces together, right? We've got Pitt kind of on one side of this campus fighting towards Timmy, and Hulk, I guess, following Rick Jones around, and the SWAT team somewhere in the middle with monsters loose on campus. I like it. That seems all right.
Yeah, even the way he draws Pitt isn't the way he always would. Like, the mouth is... Like, there's room for a nose there. And that's not the best... Like, that's not Pitt.
That's almost a nose.
It is.
Those are almost 2 nostrils.
And I know enough of Keown's work to know what Keown at his best, how he would draw this. And it wouldn't be that simple. It's just... Is this like one of the last of his comics?
You know, he had a bad schedule. So I don't know what the deal was. Like, if he just wasn't interested in drawing comics, but every now and then would put one out, or what the deal was. But definitely does not look as cared for as his Hulk run or the early issues of Pitt.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about the blandness and the color of the backgrounds, too, that just...
Totally.
Just doesn't land.
Yeah. So, like, this ball factors in. Yeah. But that's part of the story. Because there was actually, like, a beat that made me smile and laugh.
Is it whenever Hulk's making jokes about, did someone say spare?
So garbage.
Making bowling jokes.
Fucking Peter David can't help himself, man.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one for anybody. How about that for your coloring choices?
I mean, maybe, you do it once to see, oh man, that could be cool. And then you see it in print and you're like, okay, I'll just never do that again. Now, if this is the second, third, fourth time that the colorist did that, shame on them. But if it's the first time, like, you got to give it a shot and see.
It feels like so much of this is experimental in terms of, like, a new digital tool.
Yeah.
A lot of this coloring is stuff that you're just not going to see for very long.
It's Steve Buccellato, who, like, we've sung his praises.
Yeah. I wonder, I was looking for, like, some digital...
Seps, yeah.
Somebody that's translating this stuff.
But... So he might be full Photoshop himself. Because, yeah, there's weird... Like, that red is so saturated compared to everything. Like, if you see this from a distance, that red stands out in a way that is unnecessary. Like, a flannel shirt is not the focal point nor subject matter of the page.
This is the Hulk and Pitt, like, fighting the forest, I guess.
Yeah. Like, that would work great in live action, like, from, like, a drone shot where you just see cornfield. Fucking, right. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object kind of thing.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like a lot of references being used on this comic.
That's always been Keown. Like, he's never, like... He's always figured out ways to kind of escape drawing very many backgrounds.
This is a weird bit, too, and it confuses me. I guess overall this whole comic kind of confuses me, but Hulk is seeing his mother.
Right.
In the guise of Timmy's mother.
And they just took that, like, one chick that we saw painting Pitt drawings before, and I don't know who she is, because I don't know that we've seen her stat. She's just, like, his... little Timmy's caretaker or something.
But nevertheless, Hulk is now motivated by visions of his deceased mother, and now they're running through the forest at each other, busting down trees, and there's some yellow coming from the sky at night, so I don't know if these are like fingers of God reaching through the forest sky. This is a weird book. And I guess this would be your big money shot, right? A 2-page spread of Hulk and Pitt facing off. And in case you weren't sure, this is the equivalent of, like, whenever a movie's title is uttered by movie characters in the movie, where it's like, yep, black out that forest and let's make it a cover. That's another sign of...
so that's the same image.
A quick turnaround.
That's the same
image,
drawing.
Right? It's the same image. You can count the lines on the fingernails.
That's funny, man. Yeah, that's corny.
Especially because it's not a great image.
No.
Like, I've seen covers that are an image from inside that kind of work. It's a really good image, but yeah.
I bet Keown got 5 figures for that spread, though.
Yeah, maybe. It just doesn't feel like anybody's heart's in this. Go away or I'll hurt you.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah, totally. Like... Peter David casting checks, man. Kayfabers, what's a great Peter David comic? Because like we'll look at it one day. You know, like what's his masterpiece?
Does he do the X Factor that is on that short list, or on like the top 100 Marvel comics? Quesada draws it.
Yeah.
I think Peter David is the writer on that.
Yeah,
I have that printed somewhere.
I have it. I have it also.
This is a good move. Wrap Hulk's neck up in chains and launch him into orbit. More of those motion lines that are confusing if they're on the flesh. But that feels like in the past you would have like color in your speed lines.
Sure.
To kind of accentuate that he's flying.
It's very bold lines too. Like they're bolder than the line art of the characters, so it stands out a little too much.
And there's your this ball is coming back into play, I believe.
Yeah.
The Chekhov's car ball.
Yeah. It starts there. Like, and it actually this sequence was funny to me as I was reading it. Like I actually did laugh.
I love the concept of like they balled up that car and now he's going to throw it and hit him in the gut with it. That's pretty good stuff, but it just feels flat.
Also, by the way, I don't know if we got there yet or if it's coming, but there's another train that gets derailed. And there's a lot of fucking derailed trains in these comics that, like, Hulk, saves little Timmy, but, like, a train just fully crashed, and there's got to be at least 3 dead people in there. But they're just, like, there's a crashed train, and they're just handling, Timmy, you're good, cool, let's get out of here. And there's, paralyzed dudes inside that locomotive who are probably in a, sleeping.
And now Pitt lands in the middle of a football game.
Yeah, but see, Delcione is Canadian, so like they play hockey up there, man, because these goalposts are about the 20-yard line.
Yes. Canadian rules football.
Yeah, he's down with Doug Flutie. He ate the Flutie flakes.
How about this for Marvel method stuff? The Hulk pauses a moment to see if his earlier blows had any effect on his opponent. What are we talking about?
Yeah, just filling space.
This hesitation is a mistake, and the answer is self-evident.
Just filling space, dude. Like,
this almost feels like the McFarlane version of, like I drew a bunch of pages and then laid them down on the floor to put them in order. Like, it feels like these pages could even be out of order.
And see, like, now we are at full, like, this is the last couple pages, right? So, like, we were at the full regression back to Air Cell, Dragon Ring, Delcione.
You're
artwork.
Insulting the Air Cell. I have some of those books. And this panel is an insult to those.
Like this kind of stuff. And does he just like impale Pitt with the uprights?
Ooh, here's coming. Your train is on its way.
Yeah, dude. And even that's lazy. This is the whole train track gimmick.
This should have been a better panel, but Pitt headbutting Hulk, I do like that move.
Yeah.
Hitting each other with goalposts. This could be a Three Stooges comic.
Niagara Falls! Here we go. Now see, there's innocent people in there that are just trying to move cool and maybe some cars from one town to another. Maybe your FedEx packages. But, Hulk is going to save the little blonde dude.
And here's another... I don't understand this choice. He might have been able to get the boy clear of the track. Instead, he chooses the means that will cause more damage. You're right. Like, what's he doing causing more damage? So Hulk is choosing to what? People die when trains derail.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, you have to have the moment of like, you saved Timmy. Thank you. The Mega Powers handshake moment. Hulk's not having any part of that.
Totally. But just totally not paying attention to the train. It's a drone train.
Once again, man, we're back to the Pittsburgh campus next to the Natural History... Oh, no, I mean Pittsdale Museum. Would have been perfect. Would have worked in Pittsburgh. That Natural History Museum is right on the edge of campus.
And there's dinosaurs.
Yes.
I love them. I visit them a couple times a year. I sponsored a Stegosaurus backbone once.
Really?
Yeah.
So, if you wonder why things were tanking in the late 90s in comics, I don't think it's just because distributors went under.
Yeah.
I think you can lay that blame on a lot of places, man. Wasn't the best quality of comics coming out at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't, man. And a lot of it does come down to money because as the generations sort of continue, you have your guys who become the A-listers of their era, and then they price themselves out and they go to Hollywood and they do storyboards or design work and stuff like that. And at this era, a lot of those studio guys for Extreme or Wildstorm, they're fresh into comics and they're making $900 a page. You know, Jeff Matsuda making $900 a page, can draw 3 pages in a day. And Rob said that the dude bought a sports car and an apartment within a month. Then that goes away. What is the incentive to stay in comics? And you see Jeff Matsuda's name on, Teen Titans cartoons and shit. They leave, So a lot of the people who of that era are like the big talents. They price themselves out because they can make better money, like being, J. Scott Campbell just drawing covers and getting his own variant covers and selling them for a premium. It's a weird thing. So it's like, we did the Dave Cooper interview, and he was like, who was also in the Air Sale stable, and he said, when Dale did the Image stuff, he was the first guy we knew who was like legitimately rich, had a full mansion. He was like, but we're kids, and he had no furniture, but he bought the big house. So the dude doesn't really need to be making comics. So presumably he could do the comics he wants. And if this is the one you want, then, good for you.
Yeah. This ends with Rick Jones saying, I haven't been this confused since I took a philosophy class years ago. And I feel like that really sums up my experience reading this.
And I think that's another example of Peter David Peter David's cutting promos in here.
I think you're right
From
about that.
From panel 1, when he said, you ever meet somebody you dislike, and that caption's over top a pit?
We see this image 3 times.
We do.
In this
on
book.
the inside covers.
Yeah.
It's really slapped together.
I would love to hear the creative people involved in this book talk about it, frankly. Because it just feels like it was either thrown together quickly or
let's make some
artist and writer maybe weren't getting along. I don't know the circumstances, but it feels like it just doesn't fit very well.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing because Peter David is like so vocal about anti-image and all those guys like would draw him as like a goofus character and debate him or name withheld editorialism. So this was a surprise when it even happened, but I'm assuming you got this like quarter bin shit because like I was out of this stuff.
I didn't buy this at the time.
Yeah, I would be so out of this, like completely checked out, putting together my 8-ball and Love and Rockets collections.
Well, there you have it, Hulk and Pitt.
Yeah. We had to cover it one time, man. You good to go?
Yes.
Kayfabe's like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's out there.
Street Angel Deadly Squirrel Live, back in print from Image Comics. 8 complete full-color stories of the homeless ninja on a skateboard. Hulk Grand Design, Monster Madness retelling of the 60-year history of the Incredible Hulk, including quite a bit of Dale Keown and certainly Peter David, a big imprint on this Madness volume. The collected edition of that in oversized treasury format will be out in early 2023. You need to pre-order that one now if you want to make sure Marvel prints a copy for you. And you can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg where you can see a lot more of my comics and art.
Red Room trigger warnings. Red Room, the antisocial network. These trade paperbacks are in stores right now. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. Each of these books is completely self-contained, collects 4 issues of Red Room comics, and each contains more than 70 pages of extra content in the back of each, making them each unique. You can hit up my Patreon and support the comic and my work that way because I'm serializing new stuff there before it hits print, and for $3 you could get more than 300 pages worth of comics, like literally a penny a page. Hit up my link tree in the description below. You could get to those destinations. What else do we have out there, Jim?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merchandise at the links below this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Given those marching orders, we'll be on our way, Jim.
Read more comics.
All right, dude.
This ought to turn things around.
Big numbers.
That is the name of this game.
And we're not talking Bill Sienkiewicz and Alan Moore. We're talking about a 4 million seller. Is that it? 4 million?
I don't know if it was that high, but yeah, it's a top book. And I am ready when you are.
Sweet.
Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
Before we dive into today's video, a reminder that we are on the road closing out October. You can catch me at Jacksonville Public Library October 22nd for their Comic and Zine Fest. We will end the month at Baltimore Comic Con October 28th through the 30th, the creative birthplace of Cartoonist Kayfabe. So catch up with us there, and you can find Ed tabling with Uncle Jeff Darrow at Tokyo Comic Con November 25th through the 27th. Jealous of everybody that'll be at that show.
Yeah.
It is Kayfabe-tober, and these are our drawing prompts. So we still got a couple of weeks to go on this. You can find this list on our social media, and if you participate in these drawing prompts, please tag us on Instagram or Twitter so that we can see your great work and also share that with some of our followers. And man, I've been impressed so far. This is a really fun time. Love seeing the Cartoonist Kayfabe faithful showing off. We are working Cartoonist, and that is how we subsidize Cartoonist Kayfabe, so pick up some of our books. Ed Piscor's Red Room, The Antisocial Network, and Red Room, Trigger Warnings are both available now. These are completely self-contained and can be read in any order. So if you come across Red Room, Trigger Warnings, or Antisocial Network at your local store, start with either volume. You won't go wrong, and you can pick up that second one the next time you come through. Hulk Grand Design Monster Madness is my latest comic book. This is available in comic shops now. The collection will be out in early 2023 as a big oversized Treasury edition fluorescent green cover. You can't miss it, but you will want to pre-order that just to make sure Marvel prints enough copies so that you can get yours. Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is back in print after almost a year, and again, pick that one up at your local comic shop or bookstore. Perfect for any fans of Action Comics. So, today's video is taking a look at, I believe, Valiant's top-selling comic of all time, Turok Dinosaur Hunter #1 from 1993. Not just Valiant's bestseller, this is one of the top 5 comics of that year, and that is a year when comics were still selling. As the bubble, the speculator bubble begins to burst, probably 1993, the last great year for these giant numbers, and this was Valiant in a lot of ways. I think they built to this moment. This comes out of the Unity crossover. It has Bart Sears, who was doing our How to Draw Comics column in Wizard Magazine. I mean, this thing was built to be a blockbuster. You can even see they went fancy on their chromium cover, which has still held up pretty good over the years.
Let you know Jim Shooter ain't in the house.
No, he is not. He's gone. But man, they cashed some checks off of this book. I don't know the exact number sold, but like I say, top 5 in a time whenever the top comics were selling millions of copies.
Yeah, which is not unlikely that it sold into the millions.
Yes, I would expect this to be 7 figures of copies sold, and I still find this one in dollar bins. So they printed enough for everybody to have a copy.
Absolutely, man. And maybe with the kayfabe effect, the guys who invested in maybe 10, 50, 100 copies of every Valiant #1, maybe there's a little surge.
Yeah, maybe. So David Michelini, longtime, I associate him with Spider-Man writer,
Sure.
is on the writing. Bart Sears penciling, Randy Elliott inking. And I mention all of that just to give you the heads up on the creative team. But we start out here, and ayahuasca trip maybe that Turok is going on here in Colombia, South America, June 1987.
Those are not cartoonist wrists right there, man. That's a hunter.
Yes, or possibly a sequel for Over the Top, who could be considered for it. And Turok was one of those characters from like Gold Key and Western, like Magnus and Solar, that I guess Valiant licensed, and so that was part of the anticipation. His first appearance, I think it was like Magnus 12 was always like a top book in the back issues in Wizard Magazine around this time, because that was a big chunk of what Valiant was doing, having these like sleeper issues, and it wasn't just #1s that you had to buy 10 copies of, Ed.
Right.
Every Valiant comic.
Yeah, this thing. And by the way, if you go look for like what are the key Turok comics of like Dale Goldkey, or what are the key issues of like the Valiant run, there are none of the Dale Gould key. It's like 4-color issue number or whatever is like the first appearance of Turok, and that's worth like a G. But it's like the last issue of this is the only one that is worth anything, like on the aftermarket. All the rest is just kind of toilet paper, worth $1 or whatnot.
Why is this worth any, like...
This ain't worth nothing is what I'm saying. Like the last issue is the one that's like worth something. This is worth nothing. This really feels like adults who have no relationship with their childhoods trying to make comics for little kids. Can I just take a look and see what that is? I think it might be raining outside, but
I think that's what it is.
It just sounds weird. Yeah, it's nothing. Like didn't it really sound like something was happening in here?
Yes. Makes me wonder if it's hail or something.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. We're having a hailstorm.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of a hailstorm. All right, sorry, Jimmy.
You good?
Good to go. But yeah, this feels like it's a bunch of old dudes trying to make comics for kids, and they're like, this will be cool. Kids will like this, robot dinosaurs that talk. But it feels clunky. It doesn't read.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out when Acclaim buys this, because this goes on to be one of their video game.
Video game ad. This feels built for a video game, and certainly when N64 comes around, it's like one of the greatest N64 games. It was a killer app, a reason to buy the N64.
There's a number of these silhouette panels, like, I've done that silhouette zine, and it came from Bart Sears' column on silhouettes, and he used all the silhouette panels from this issue. But I love this with the pink and oranges in the sky. That looks like markers or something put it on the sky background colors. Sometimes I think this coloring works, and sometimes it really doesn't. Like, you'll see things go into mud, or you'll see things go into like same color on flesh and background.
Yeah.
But it's definitely Bart Sears. I think is a big draw for this comic.
So the villain of the issue is called Monarch, and I don't think it was like when you're reading the text, it's not 100% certain that like Monarch is a dinosaur. But then when you get to this, and it talks about like been tracking his spore, which it makes you understand what these nuggets are. From that one episode of Beavis and Butthead where Van Driesen takes him into the woods to male bond, I know that spore means turds. So I'm like, he can't be tracking like human turds. Like that would be too far for a Valiant comic. So I'm like, what? So this villain it's a dinosaur. It's a T-Rex.
Check out this great bit of storytelling. He comes out of his vision there around the fire, and he's like, I guess I won't have to go too far to find my enemy. My enemy has found me. Yeah. It's a good thing he came out of that vision seconds whenever he did, or he'd have been in trouble. And I guess Monarch is a velociraptor. Is that the breed of dinosaur we're going to call that guy?
Yeah, sure.
Jurassic Park. Hot off the hills of Jurassic Park.
Bart Sears going full burn Hogarth, like just showing you every muscle group, exactly where it goes, how it wraps around. Like this is like the starting place of a lot of people where you just jigsaw puzzle in all of the anatomy, and then it takes over time you soften it up and allow the skin to exist up there, but not Bart Sears. Like he's giving you
it's very tight,
every group.
I loved that at the time.
I mean, he was the guy teaching anatomy in The Wizard,
Yes. And I was the guy following it.
Yeah, me too. I could show you exactly. Not too, like, drawing liquid blood in line, not too effective. It's very chunky. It looks like, what the hell is that fake disease where people think they have fibers coming out of their skin? Like, the Kayfabers will know.
That's an interesting one to source.
And they'll also say it's not a fake disease, but like Morgellons disease, where like because like if you look at pictures online, like the interpretation is like these like red like fibers that people like see coming out of their hands and their skin, and they like scratch it off.
Wonder if Monarch comes from the Golden Western comics.
I
run.
have no idea, but like, dinosaurs are cool enough. Like, you don't need
A metal cap.
with talking dinosaurs that do that classic hacky Cobra Commander, like roll your S a real long time.
Hey, check this out. The lettering is like all shifted down.
You're right.
How does that happen? Because that's not a, it's
It's
not
in
a plate.
everything. Yeah.
If that were a plate, you would see it in the line art too. So bizarre. Turok survives because he fell into water, like Predator. And whenever he comes out, he's rescued by a local Colombian who he's bleeding bad, not in the best of shape, and she takes him away.
This is the page that Bart didn't feel like drawing. Let's
This
just get
is
through this real quick.
A strange one, strange silhouette too. It looks like Dr. Moreau like combining some people together. There's too many heads in the silhouette. But this is our local drug dealer in Median, and monsters are attacking his drug shipment, and it shouldn't work that way because they paid their gold. Gold crossed the usual palms. Turok is so mean looking all the time.
Yeah, he is, man. Even when he got saved, like, and he's coming back up on land and stuff, like he looks ready to go. That's a butch fella.
Yes. Deathmate to give you a time.
Can you believe
capsule.
this, man? Like, you're trying to sell people on this, and like one of those guys has a skullet. Are you kidding me? And the most alpha of them all just looks like Kato Kalin.
Hotshot joins the hardcore. It's like a really bad parody.
It really is. And I got Jim Lee to draw the cover for issue 1, and it still was a stinker.
Yeah. This is your Image style of like the giant figure, full page figure.
His anatomy, it feels liquid.
It does.
Like when he did Brutes and Babe, his comic Brute and Babe, with like his style lends well to like doing the muscles like that, because there's like a real like taffy kind of Play-Doh filling.
She's diving for his lost arrows.
She's got some perks too, man. Like, look, there's like hard nipples and shit.
That hair is funny.
My Uncle Tom has that tattoo.
What is that a tattoo of? It's almost a rat.
Yeah, well, my uncle's is a Black Panther. And see, this is weird storytelling stuff, because she's gonna die, spoiler. But like this panel feels like she's selling you as a villainess. Like Bart Sears is like, yeah, like that would be a conspiratorial smile.
They're gonna eat that cat that he killed, that panther.
This is Pratt's power forward, Bernard Chang. Man, go see our Wizard episodes. He was very happy to be on Pratt's basketball team.
Can you believe Pratt had a basketball team?
Like, yeah. Yes, I can. Let them play the SVA kids or something like that.
Yeah, that's a like an L league or something.
Like everybody's running up and down the court with their what do you call it, man? Inhalers.
The dinosaurs realize that Turok's still alive, and they're heading basically back to kill the village. They want to just torture Turok.
They call him T-Rock because even though they are eloquent, they can't say T-Rock.
Another one of those great silhouettes. There's a lot of silhouettes. They're on like every couple of pages. You get a silhouette.
And you know what? Like
maybe every page.
The silhouettes are almost in the shape of like the Dale Goldkey covers. Would like have like a prominent figure, like pulling back the bow, like doing all that Turok stuff.
This is what you want to, I think, as a reader, is him fighting hardcore dinosaur fight. And
he's got like the
Do you see shades of Barry Windsor-Smith in a panel like this?
Sure. He's got like exploding arrows and stuff. And when you see him doing his thing, popping an arrow in a dude's neck and the head exploding, that's video game shit. Mm-hmm. This really feels like set up for that.
It also feels really different than what I associate with Valiant.
Sure.
Like to me, Valiant's this like talking head sci-fi kind of stuff, and at this point, this is like much more of an action comic. Not a bad thing, but a little bit different. Doesn't feel like something. I don't know that if Jim Shooter were the editor that this book would look this way.
Tim Truman's going to take over at least writing in a couple of issues,
Yeah.
and then it actually he does good work because like Scout comics were comics I got real early, and I really like Tim Truman's stuff, and I think he likes Del Goldkey shit. You know, he's a Sam Glanzman
Sure.
guy.
A lot of people like that stuff. I mean, that was the #1 publisher in America for 20 years.
Yeah, but not Turok or any of that shit. Like Turok always sucked.
You get a bump though.
Yeah.
Our girl kicks Turok out.
Yeah, because they're like, listen,
call him
dude,
Bart.
these damn dinosaurs are always going to keep coming back. They're coming back for you. Like, you gotta bounce, man. But here's some arrows. Think about me.
Yeah.
Think about me on your way out.
I love that he's thinking about her as he walks away, and we actually see her. Like, he's not too far down the road and still thinking about her. You know what I thought of reading this is we ought to look at Exo Zero. Joe Quesada doing Exo Manowar.
Sure, I got that one. Same kind of weird cover, Tyvek cover or something.
Yeah, like indestructible. And also I thought this Knob Row profile of Ted Halstead, if I cover up the age there, is that dude 52?
Straight up, dude.
23, man.
He was an original Krusty Bunker.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know what that filter is, but I'd be mad. Bob Layton is your editor-in-chief at this point. Harbinger hitting issue 25. Harbinger was my favorite Valiant book back then. And a couple more of these video game ads. It's interesting because they're not Acclaim ads. And
None of
Acclaim,
them.
of course, the one who will end up buying Valiant and I guess producing the Turok game.
It's just so crazy, too, because it's still the still the 8-bit era even. Regular Nintendo is out.
Yeah, the timeline, like going back and looking at all this stuff from the 90s, the timeline is so much more crunched than I remembered.
Totally. And I bet like the older we get, like the more that's gonna happen. And like my pops will be talking about stores. Like, go here to get fresh luggage, and my mom will be like, that store has been closed. Like, that hasn't existed in 20 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're there. I'm there.
I'm there, kinda. You know, like my reference has been Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like that shit hasn't been on TV in a very long time, I don't think. Good to go, Jim?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's out there, man. Get this off the damn. Like, you don't want to be associated with something like that, though.
I like to sell.
You don't want to hurt
numbers.
your. Yeah. You don't want to hurt your brand.
Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, back in print from Image Comics. 8 complete stories, perfect for this upcoming holiday season, all self-contained. Hulk, Grand Design, Monster Madness. These issues are out now, and the collection will be out in early 2023, oversized Treasury edition with about 40 extra pages. So pre-order that one now so that Marvel knows how many to print. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see a lot more of my comics and art.
Red Room trigger warnings. Red Room, the antisocial network. Trade paperbacks in stores now. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. In Red Room Comics, each of these books is completely self-contained. Each contains 4 separate stories, and each contain more than 70 pages of content you're not going to be able to get anywhere other than from these specific books. Go to my Patreon for $3. You'll be able to get all of this material, plus the new strips that I'm serializing before they hit paper. That's at this point, less than a penny a page for these strips. And you could get to these links to order, pre-order, and hit up the Patreon at my link tree in the description below this video. Jimmy, tell the people what else they have.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, mugs, fanny packs, and more at our spread shop at the links below this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders. Will be on our way.
Read more comics.
All right, man, let me just... We're at 4:57. Let me just run to the bathroom real fast, dude. And we're doing real good. Xenon's going to be a breeze.
Yeah, it won't be a long video.
Did you see Dennis Kitchen responded to some of the like put some comments on the Drew Friedman?
No, what did he say?
I responded to it and was just like, Dennis, we got to talk to you, man. So he's like, yeah, anytime. But like, I went on his website and it seems, I bet some of the emails and stuff there will get to him. So that'll be something to set up, man. That's an important guy to talk to.
He was around for some cool shit.
Yeah. Let me see which ones you got, man. Yeah, it's so funny, dude. Between the both of us, we have a complete set. Like, I have, like, all the single digits in that back half, and like, the teen ones that you have, yeah. I don't have.
I love the covers for this.
Pretty good, man. And that's that thing where they take found artwork. But I bet, like, you could take... You know how there would be, like, a title page for all the strips? Like inside of, like, the serializations, there would be a title. Like, you just take those. That's what they did for Akira.
Yeah.
Good to go, Jim?
Yep. Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
A couple of announcements at the top here. You can catch me October 22nd at the Jacksonville Public Library as part of their Comic and Zine Fest. You can catch both of us at the end of the month, October 28th through the 30th at Baltimore Comic Con. And you can catch Ed with Jeff Darrow at the Tokyo Comic Con, November 25th through the 27th. It is Kayfabe-tober month, and this is our drawing prompt list. We're about halfway through here. It's been fun seeing everybody's drawings. Very talented audience that we have here at Cartoonist Kayfabe. So if you want to participate in these drawing prompts, be sure and tag us so that we can share your artwork with our fans and followers. And you can find this list on our social media, on our Instagram and Twitter. Cartoonist Kayfabe is brought to you by the comics that we make. Ed Piscor's Red Room Trigger Warnings and Red Room The Antisocial Network are both in print and available now wherever books and comics are sold. They're both self-contained and can be read in any order. So whichever volume you encounter first is the perfect place to start reading Red Room. Hulk Grand Design Monster Madness is my retelling of the 60-year history of the Incredible Hulk. This is available in comic shops everywhere. And Hulk Grand Design, the collection, the Treasury Oversized Edition, will be out in early 2023. You can pre-order that one now. And you can find Street Angel, Deadly Squirrel Alive, back in print from Image Comics. 8 complete full-color stories, perfect for this upcoming holiday season for any Action Comics fan in your life. Today, we are going to look at Zenin, the heavy metal warrior from Eclipse and Viz. This was the 4th manga title that these companies joined together to publish after My the Psychic Girl, Area 88, and Kamui. And we have a video on those titles. So those first 3 titles were released to good response. And this is the follow-up that came out, I think, later in the same year. I believe it's 1987. And I think this is one of the cooler looking ones in that run of books. I love the way the covers look. I like the way they color this stuff. I brought a few of these from my collection to kind of show off. This is a cyborg character and a high school student. By the way, issues 2 and 3, back matter, Frederick Schott of manga fame. So some cool back matter in these, but I just love this approach. Like, they're so brightly colored, and it's like kind of hard action comics.
So wise. Like, the people who brought manga here and created Viz and worked with Eclipse, they were very specific about the stuff that they brought here to kind of wet the whistle of the American audience. This is brand new comics to us. The fucking Astro Boy comics that we had from like Dell were drawn by just American dudes based on a cartoon. We did not have manga. So My the Psychic Girl, not too far from like an X-Men kind of thing. We like martial arts here. Bruce Lee was big. You get Kamui, Area 88. Like we already had Robotech, and that stuff was coming out. So you get that. This thing Terminator-ish, but like high school student Terminator comic.
Yeah, that's a good description.
And you still got to give us the same format because we're used to a certain kind of comic. So you dole it out in these, 24 or 32-page pieces. But then because it's such a slight amount of story, like you put it out a little bit more frequently so that we can like I feel like they did things the right way.
Yeah, I think that's a good description. And I have comments on that, but I just wanted to point out the creator, Masaomi Kanzaki, 21 whenever he makes his debut in 1985. So this is a pretty fresh comic, 87, 2 years later that they're bringing it to an English audience. And, kind of describes it as favors fast-paced science fiction action tales. And I think the other note, because he's 21, the high school student part is a big part of this. That's what the first back matter, high school life in Japan talks about. Having a young creator, I think, is key to tapping into that kind of, concerns and emotion.
So go to the back page again, because I saw on the front inside cover, the original editors and representatives are from a company called Shogakukan. And when you're in Japan, we know Shueisha is shonen. Like that's Shonen Jump, Shonen Weekly, all that stuff. And then Kodansha is magazine, big magazine, weekly magazine, monthly magazine, young magazine. That's where Akira showed up in. And then the third, like the also ran publisher, it seems, is Shogakukan. And like so much of Urasawa comes out from Shogakukan, and those are Sunday. You'll see, Weekly Sunday, Colorful Sunday, Monthly Sunday. You'll see Young Sunday, and you'll see Shonen Sunday, which then you're like, okay, so who is it? But the Sunday is Shogakukan, Magazine Kodansha, Shonen, Shueisha. So for those playing at home.
Gotcha.
And there's very little like Shogakukan, like it's pretty cool to get some of that. But of course the biggest character would be Doraemon, I think, was a Shogakukan comic. But it never worked here. It never translated. This is where I felt like you were pulling a rib on me, because I'm going to Japan and stuff, and you show me a fucking plane crash like a month before I get out of here. Like, what are you doing to me, Jim?
How dramatic is that, right?
Yeah.
It's quite a spread seeing that plane crash. And here's our hero with a little hint of what we've got here.
Yeah.
Because this first issue, it's setup. It's a lot of setup. We're not going to get this guy's backstory. We're not going to learn too much about cyborgs here. But we do get a little bit of a reveal in that title shot of what this heavy metal warrior looks like in all his glory.
And certainly on the front cover and stuff. But like, dismiss all of that and you just start reading, and it's set up beautifully.
Yeah, so we're in the aftermath of that plane crash. We're still trying to figure that out, and you get some info from like a news broadcast.
Yeah, as a homeless guy is watching said broadcast.
Yeah, did I skip a page? I don't
No, you're
think
good.
So. Yeah, there's where you see the group that's gathered around, and there's a big production about that homeless guy and how bad he smells.
Right. Yeah. Sure. So there was something important on that plane beyond the black box, and this was on there. Now this is a classic manga shit where like the line art to this is different than everything else. So there's some nameless assistant who drew the most badass drawing in the whole thing, and it ain't our main guy, I don't think. That line art doesn't suggest...
It's an awesome image.
It's so good, but the line art is so different than the line art everywhere else, which lets me think that like some very inspired assistant did this. And when you see this, and when we go back to our homeless guy, you're like, oh, fuck, that's sick. That's our dude.
It's laying the seeds for what's to come.
Because it's on the very next page. Like, there he is. I think in black and white line, the artist always does a good job of selling you on a dark blue eye and a lighter, more translucent, like reddish eye. Like, he never forgets that part. And this goes to show you how you could do color value in black and white line. That's instructive to somebody.
I love the way we're basically repeating this image as we go into like kind of the flashback of that plane crash.
Yeah. And they're recognizing him, man. Like, they're like, oh, that's the little Tony from school.
Right. A guy who had dropped out of school.
Yeah.
So disappeared for a little bit from the local scene, and now we're going to have our Archie character and Veronica there recognize him, as well as a couple of toughs from that high school are going to find him in this issue. But he doesn't really know it. He's not sure who he is, so part of the mystery that's going to unfold. Bumps into her. This is when the recognition takes place. Walking through this crowd, and the homeless guy bumps into the girl and causes a little bit of a stare down, if you will. And that's the moment of recognition.
Look at that eye, dude. So good.
I find it interesting looking at manga the way certain things are repeated. I think it's part of how the reading experience can be done so quickly.
Sure.
I also look at the size of the screen tone that's used on this character.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty bold.
Also, this is a very 80s manga aesthetic, and when you look at enough of this stuff, it's kind of cool how you can pick that apart and tell, like, okay, this is like 80s style, this level of eyes, the sort of style of inking, incorporating these kind of elements, or it's distinctly 80s. You know, Hara Tetsuo like fits in there, but it's very much of that post Maycross, you know, dirty pair kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, now that you say that, it makes me wonder, like, how they're picking, you know, I mean, it's the people that are bringing this in are such gatekeepers in terms of what we're seeing and what we think, you know, the style tropes are.
Feels
wonder
pretty
how deliberate
contemporary.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, and it's interesting to think about, because there's got to be so much at play. There's got to be money at play, because to me, the no-brainer would be you bring Lone Wolf and Cub before Kamui. But first got that.
When do they publish that?
I think around the same time.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, like, you got to
So
do the also
are,
ran.
are vying for.
Yeah, there's money being spent, and like, but then that comes out and proves a hit. So, like, what's the next best thing you could do? Like, that Kamui stuff from the late period looked kind of Kojima-ish, which is interesting to think about, because if you look at the old Kamui comics with the simple line, like the stuff from Garo, Goseki Kojima did work on that as an assistant, but it's not his. It doesn't look like his hand. It looks cartoonish.
That is interesting. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Story wise, we've got these three boys. It's funny that these are boys, by the way, because if you told me this guy was 40, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
The bullies always look like that too.
They do, and they recognize him, and they've kind of followed him into this abandoned building where they're going to get some kind of payback. They've been waiting for him.
Yeah, man, because they're like, dude, you don't even got a starter jacket, dude. We gotta fuck you up, man. You don't got the right Charlotte Hornets coat.
And he plays the amnesia card, which they don't quite buy.
So they're gonna just knock some sense into homeboy.
Yeah, right. Dude, they have like clubs and stuff. Like, this is a pretty violent, serious threat they're posing.
Like, really try to kill a dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the two, like, right and left-hand goons who also could be 40.
And that's the joke, because, like, it doesn't do much to our boy. You know, he's just leaking oil.
Yeah. Wayne Truman on our lettering, by the way, did a lot of this early work.
Yeah, closely associated with Eclipse Comics.
I have such a soft spot for this stuff. It is of a certain time period. And these would be comics that I would find, like, early indie comics, like, at a flea market.
So here's the fun thing, dude. You calling a Wayne Truman, like, I think he did most of the lettering on this old stuff. And to this very day, almost like they made a font of Wayne Truman lettering.
I never thought about the size of the font, but you're right about it being big. And I think I like that part for reading. Helps my old eyes.
Yeah, and surely it's because the character dimensions for manga, like, you know, the kanji and stuff, are big. It's so interesting. There's this, like, you know those, like, translucent rulers?
Yeah.
At the manga, at the editor's office, there would be those things, and it would be show you the different point sizes for typography, and it would just be squares. So there would be different numbers, and then they would hold that over top of the various balloons, and the squares were equally spaced because all the characters would fit into that. So if you notice, sometimes there will be big lettering and smaller lettering. That's something that they have to navigate on a panel-by-panel basis, and it takes up a lot of real estate. So, you know, might as well get some big lettering in there to fill that space. But ever since Dave Sim came out and really allowed so much room with his dialogue bubbles, like, that's the move.
I think so, too. I think it makes for an attractive page. And check it out, man. Our first hint of the cyborg underneath our boy with that weird metallic eye.
Yeah. Little aperture, man. Little sphincter eye.
And before we can have our bad guy leader take his shot, the girl from the crowd earlier shows up begging for mercy.
Love the white zips on the smoke there.
Yeah, that's
to create a foreground element in front of our guy. Very interesting. Like, when you see stuff like this, once again, it's another hand. You know, this isn't our main cartoonist guy. This is some other dude putting hands on the page, and that's manga. That's the biz.
Some exposure of our heavy metal warrior. A couple of fingers that have been, I guess, spun up to reveal the robot underneath.
Totally in shock. Sells it hard.
Looks good. Looks, yeah, I feel like this is a cool looking title.
Yeah. Yeah. Reading so much of this stuff, too, like, it did whatever it did. It's a more meager comic in terms of page count. I think 24 issues tells the tale, which is very slight compared to like most manga. And I think it's cool. It's not a hit. Like, when you read Dragon Ball, like, you see the pieces that make it feel like a hit. When you read Akira, it's like, okay, this is a hit. This is very cool, but you could also see the parts where it's like tweak some knobs to like get it there, because it ain't quite, but it's fine. It's cool.
Look at this effect of putting your screen tone down with a little bit of an aura around characters.
Yeah.
That's a convention that I've seen quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of peculiar.
I think it's a little filmic. Like, you would see an old Catholic like video. You would see a kind of like on rim lighting, like you would see like a sheen, like that would emit almost like a halo.
And we're setting up the basically a fight. This is working an angle here. We've called in number 204, which is a little bit confusing because the plane that crashed is number 204.
Right.
But 204 is some sort of agent, and he is here to presumably collect Zenon.
And what's interesting is I think it ends here. Like, if it was a serialized originally, I feel like it ends there because you don't get the wash on a page 25.
You know what? I was wondering that, like, reading this, how these broke. Because it seems like a chapter would be an issue.
Yeah, but it just never works. A chapter's like 15, 17 pages, so you got to give a little more, or double it up, or cut one in half.
I also think this idea of this main character not knowing who he is a very young adult kind of concept.
Sure.
A kid in high school trying to figure out who they are, right? You're breaking free of whatever your parents' influence is. You've got your friends. You're trying to identify yourself through whatever, fashion and music, things like that, what you like. And I feel like that's in here. And maybe it doesn't hit, but I can see like an idea of how that would work for an audience that is mostly probably teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, this is considered a seinen manga, which is that age group of adolescents for sure.
I wonder if there's a good history on these early English mangas, because it does feel. I wonder about what they're picking and why and what their strategies are and what actually hits. I'm sure there were some surprises along the way and a very strange thing to anticipate. Like, of course, you want everything to be successful, but you're selling this to a whole different audience, so it's hard to anticipate what's actually going to connect.
And some of it, like I bet Ramna was a surprise hit, because I mean they kept that one up for a long time, and a lot of people speak on that.
Yeah, and talk about like what's the American counter book to Ranma,
right?
Like, I don't know that
it's
there
hard
is
to
one.
explain,
You mentioned Terminator, like you can see some stuff for a Zenon. Even like the Psychic Girl feels like there's an X-Men connection there to be had, or a superhero connection, but Ranma's a tougher one to figure out.
And then the ones that you think are no-brainers, Fist of the North Star.
Yeah.
It's only now that I think we'll actually get to see the completion of Fist of the North Star after 35 years of trying, of 2, 3, 4 different formats. Like, I was grabbing those Raijin comics whenever they were serializing it on a weekly and doing the color versions. Like, it's only now that I think that we have a good shot to actually get to read Fist of the North Star in anything but a scanlation. But they tried. But you think about it, it should work.
Right. That would have been a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Maybe goes to show what I know, which again makes me wonder, like, and obviously Viz figured it out, you know, biggest publisher in the States for comics, but took him probably some trial and error to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to give shouts to the president of Viz who let me get that tour of Shueisha. I would like to do it again. So that would be awesome. Jimmy, if you're good to go, I'm good to go.
Yep.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Jimmy, tell the people what's out there, man.
Street Angel Deadliest Girl back in print after almost a year from Image Comics. Pick that one up. 8 complete full color stories. Hulk Grand Design, Monster Madness, a retelling of The Incredible Hulk. These are the comic book versions of that story. There'll be a collected treasury-sized edition out in early 2023 with about 40 extra pages, all the covers, some behind-the-scene art. You want to have that one on your shelf. It'll look nice to the other Grand Designs. So pre-order that one today to let Marvel know how many to order. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see a lot more of my comics and art.
Red Room Trigger Warnings, the Antisocial Network, trade paperbacks in stores. Today, you can get your hands on these right now. They're each self-contained. Each contain 4 issues of comics, and each have more than 70 pages of extra material within those 2 covers. So if you see one of these, scoop it up, give it a shot. If you dig it, grab the other one. I'm also serializing new Red Room comics on my Patreon. As we speak, every Tuesday, new pages go up there. $3 for the archive on the Patreon. It comes out to, at this point, I think less than a penny a page of Red Room comics. Hit up my link tree in the description below this video. You'll be able to get to all of those destinations. Jimmy, what else do we have out there?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, all kinds of good stuff at our spread shop in the links below this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Jimmy giving those marching orders. Will be on our way.
Read more manga.
And there it is, man. Robert Shirley says, if Ed gets a tour, he better film the heck out of it. They are super closed off to
that is
cameras.
Proprietary stuff over there.
They were like, dude, don't even take out your phone at all. Don't like see what time it is, man. And it was fucking dope. Like the editor-in-chief is the dude that took me, like the guy who makes all the decisions, the top dog. And he just on his desk, he pulled out, he's like, oh, I just got this in today. And it was the dudes that do Naruto, like they're doing a new strip, like in Shonen Jump, and it was the cover and the pages for that issue, and it was sick as fuck because the panels were cut out so that they were coming down to crunch time with the deadline, so they just cut the pages up a bunch and just gave them to assistants, and then stitched it all back together. And then that's how I discovered that the covers for Shonen Jump, because they showed the stuff, and I was like, how are you going to print this? Because it used the, there's the Copics that are the F, like FV, FO, like fluorescent. And I'm like, how are you going to print this? And that's how I discovered that it's 5 colors for Shonen Jump covers. It's the CMYK, and then you get to choose a fluorescent for all the covers. So just get that extra little pop. Wow. On the stands, man.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, for sure. So
cool.
We're good, man. It's 5:21. We got a shoot interview scheduled for 6 p.m. our time. Time to break things down. Should we hang for like 5-10 minutes, Jimmy, or should we just get everything in there? You nervous, man? You want to settle in and chill out?
I'm not nervous.
You're not nervous?
I do have extensive notes, though. I am ready.
Yeah. Me too, dude. Me too. It's going to be a good one.
They all are.
That's goddamn right. Once again, I encourage everybody to check out the Drew Friedman shoot interview that we put up this past Sunday. Man, one of the best talks that we've had, and it was fun doing that thing where, we have these tales and conjectures and tying him to them and getting him to expand upon them. I like that shit.
He's kind of a different group than we've talked to. I like these guys, like hearing back in their day and who their peers are and everything. And Friedman's a different guy than, coming out of that SVA early 80s Raw group. Haven't had a lot of people from that circle on. Yeah. So it's cool to get that perspective. Yeah, I'd encourage everybody to check that one out if they haven't already.
Cool. So, fuck it.
Good.
We'll wrap things up. And,
as always, thanks for watching, everybody.
You know how to do it?
No, I don't. I realized as I lean over there.
End stream.